What's going on, fellow A-plusers? It's your host, as always, Adam Perez, back once again for a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report. We've got 6 amazing topics for you guys today as we finally have ourselves the Fantastic Four casting that we're going to be getting into for you guys. We even have an update for Superman and Lois Season 4 you guys are definitely going to want to hear about. Possibly a brand new director for Masters of the Universe, and we officially have our brand new Karate Kid. We're going to get into this and so much more, guys. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome one and all to another episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC television, and movie news as we certainly wrap up your week. 6 amazing topics we're going to be getting into. We're going to start off the show with some honorable mentions and ending the show with your guys' live viewer questions. So it should be a fantastic Sunday around here, man, at Hero Report. Good to see you, Stuart. How you going? How you doing, man?
I'm doing absolutely excellent at the moment. How are you?
Not too bad. Had to get my boy ready. Grandpa came and picked him up, so hopefully he'll have himself a pretty good time while I'm breaking down the news for you guys today. But overall, it's not too bad out here in Dallas, man. A little bit of a chill, but the sun is out. I'm hoping as the day gets a little bit longer, it gets a little bit hotter around here. But overall, not too bad, man. I actually did do a presentation. For those of you who don't know, if you are on Twitch, there is a great podcast, if you're big into movies, called Chicken on a Stick. And they do sort of like their own movie awards each year. And so this was their 3rd annual Stickies Awards. And I had the honor to be a presenter for the Best Animated Feature Film of the year. So they just had the award ceremony yesterday. They did it live. So again, if you are on Twitch, check out Chicken on a Stick if you want to go ahead and see. I don't know exactly what number presenter that we were. So you might have to, search or maybe just watch the whole entire thing if you want to. They had some great trivia in between, some great little skits here and there. It did run a little bit long, but it was fun overall. But thank you to Patrick and Maggie for allowing me to be a presenter yesterday. So definitely go ahead and check it out, guys, if you're on Twitch. They also have a podcast, also Chicken on a Stick. Try and search for them if you'd like to on your wherever you listen to your audio podcasts. So pretty good day for a pretty good week, I should say, for a Hero Report, man. What have you been up to this week, Stuart?
Not much. So Valentine's Day was pretty fun because a little bit of history with me and my girl. The very first movie I took her to on Valentine's Day, obviously the very first movie I took her to was The Force Awakens. That was an amazing night because we were both incredible Star Wars fans. But that next year, just 2 months after that movie came out, on Valentine's Day was Deadpool. And she, I'm a bit of a comic book nerd. She is a bit of a Marvel nerd. So it was like kind of a perfect Valentine's Day movie, and we probably, like, even after Valentine's Day, probably rewatched that movie several times in theaters. So this past Valentine's Day was just a really nice chill day where the two of us just took a couple of edibles and rewatched Deadpool for the first time in several years. And nice. Yeah, it was a great time, and I think both of us are really excited for Wolverine and Deadpool.
Yeah, man. So am I. We had some great movie trailers this past week. To think about it, it's like, man, the Super Bowl was a week ago. It feels like it doesn't feel like it was that far. But doesn't feel like it was that long ago. But yeah, we had a great Deadpool and Wolverine trailer that we talked about. I think I did a live video on Monday of going through some of the trailers that we wind up getting at the Super Bowl. And we definitely talked about Deadpool and Wolverine. What were your thoughts, man? I don't think we got a chance to break down your thoughts on the trailer.
So far, my thoughts are it looks great. It looks like what I was hoping to find from another Deadpool movie. One thing I was kind of worried about going into this is I was worried that and this could still be a concern from what we see in the trailer, but I was worried that they would just focus so much on fan service, they would forget the heart that Deadpool 1 and 2 really had. But from that beginning scene where it shows him with his entire, basically found family, I don't think that's going to be something to be too worried about. I think they do remember, where the heart of Deadpool comes from, and I'm hoping they keep that. They don't try to just write off those characters just to put Deadpool in the MCU and leave everything from his world behind. That's like the number one thing I hope they don't do. But I am really looking forward to seeing him and Hugh Jackman working together. I'm really excited to see this new version of Wolverine, seeing him finally in like the classic costume. From the glimpses that we get here and there, he looks absolutely fantastic. And yeah, I do love how right off the bat, they get that Disney joke out of the way with with
With the
Deadpool.
pegging?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's not my first time. It's Disney's though. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%, man. I thought that the way that the trailer kicked off definitely sort of added a emotional depth to it that I was hoping that they would hit. And I do think it's going to come into play as he's going on his adventures. Maybe the realization that like maybe I'm going to lose all these people that I really care about, sort of thing. So I do think they established a good emotional tone for the trailer. And then, of course, bringing in the TVA was super interesting to me to see how they were going to introduce that and having him sort of like an agent to kind of maybe do some of their dirty work or whatever the case may end up being. But I just thought it was a really cool premise that they kind of kicked off the teaser trailer with. And I will say also, I am glad that they really didn't give us that much of a glimpse of Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine. Like just a very, very brief end scene that we wind up getting. But other than that, it definitely has you wanting to see more, I think. But I think even for some people might say this was all I needed to see. I could probably go into the rest of this movie blind, but I am ready to see a little bit more Hugh Jackman. But I thought it was a perfect tease for exactly what the teaser trailer needed. But I'm agreeing with you, man. I love this trailer.
Yeah. And yeah, I would also say that if this is, I mean, I know we're going to get more trailers that'll probably give away a lot more of the movie, but if in a hypothetical world where marketing isn't a thing, if this is the only teaser that we get, I will be so happy. But
Yeah.
obviously that's not going to happen. I think I'm going to try to avoid watching the trailers unless like someone says you need to watch this or something like that. I'm going to try to keep my knowledge about this movie as little as possible because I feel like I already know more than I want to know because I already know about some of the cameos that we're going to be seeing. I already know
Sure.
about like a lot of the leaked photos, unfortunately. So since I already know about the stuff we're not supposed to know, I'm just going to try to keep my eyes away from the stuff that they want us to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I may probably check out the official trailer, but I think after that I'm gonna shut everything else down.
Yeah.
But let us know what you guys thought about the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer that we wind up getting on the Super Bowl. Let's give some shout outs, man, to people that are in the live chat. And look, if you're in that live chat, man, hit that like button. It really does go a long way in showing your support. Doesn't take very much. So hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Maybe even hit that bell notification. So when we drop brand new videos, you'll definitely know about them. Good old Enrique Perez certainly coming through. Says, hey, Adam, just saw the official trailer for X-Men 97 and a new Marvel animation logo. It's going to release this upcoming March. Also, Madam Web is out in theaters, and I saw it, and it was amazing. I'm glad you liked it, Enrique. He said, I also saw the announcement for Fantastic Four newscast. Yeah, we're definitely going to get into all of that for you today, Enrique. Blossom's in the house. What's up, Blossom? Good to certainly see you. She says, I'm super stoked for X-Men 97. Marvel is bringing back childhood gold. No joke. We're definitely going to be talking about that in our honorable mentions. Ram Jam. What's up, Ram Jam? Good to see you, man. He says, no, I will not be able to join the stream today. It's okay, man. We always appreciate you coming through and making your presence felt. Johnny, what's up, Johnny? He says, hey, Adam, how are you, buddy? What's up? I'm doing good, Johnny. I'm doing good. Yesterday I was getting ready to go out to dinner with the girlfriend. We were celebrating one of her friend's birthdays, and she was like, are you okay, babe? But I'm like, nah, somebody just rattled me on Twitter a little bit, talking about Power Rangers. I'm trying to be hopeful about Jonathan Entwistle. In regards to, I know he's got the big Karate Kid movie coming up. I'm kind of hoping that they take that momentum and Hasbro does something with it. But, you get the people that push back and they're like, Power Rangers is dead. They're never going to do this reboot. And look, it may be for all I know. They've been kind of quiet on all fronts, but I kind of take it more or less like as them in a holding pattern, if you will, until maybe Jonathan Entwistle is done with this thing, and then hopefully decide to go ahead and tackle it. I mean, I don't think Hasbro's in the best of shape that they've ever been in, unfortunately, since the passing of Brian Goldner. But I am hoping that they hold on to the Power Rangers IP and really do something with it after Jonathan Entwistle, and maybe what they do with Karate Kid with Entwistle does with Karate Kid, if it's successful, maybe they're like, you know what, this is the man for the job. Like, we really need to step on the gas here. Have you heard anything, Stuart, about it being like officially dead? Like, Hasbro hasn't come out and said anything, I don't believe.
No. No, they haven't said anything about it being about it being scrapped. Last I checked, the last bit of news I heard about this was that they had a showrunner for the reboot series, not the movie yet.
Jenny Klein.
If they're even still doing the movie, which I'm not sure
I
about.
don't think it is. I think they're doing. I think they've taken the movie and have turned that into a series concept that I think Jonathan Entwistle is still on board to do. But then you're right. There was a lady by the name of Jenny Klein that was coming on as a showrunner that I think was doing a secondary Power Ranger program also.
Yeah, I think just people on Twitter are just really fast to jump to conclusions if they don't hear any news like immediately. So I don't think it'll be anytime soon, but I do think a Rangers reboot will happen. Whether it's this reboot that's going to be led by Jonathan Entwistle, or they decide to scrap it and then something else will come. I do think that Power Rangers is not dead and it will return like sometime soon. I do think that like we just need to be a little bit of patient. We just need to be patient. Is all.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I reached out to Jinsaku too, and he kind of told me it felt like it was sort of in a holding pattern right now, kind of a wait and see. But he didn't say anything about it being dead. And I think Jinsaku's come through for us a couple times in regards to some of his sources. So we'll see, guys, but we'll keep you posted. Marcelino in the house. What's up, Marcelino? He says, Stuart is speaking my language. I avoid as much trailers as I can because trailers just have the entire movie in them nowadays. Yeah, sometimes they absolutely do. For example, Madam Web. Let's see here. Cindy, what's up, Cindy? He says, hi, Adam. Big fan here. I'm a big fan of yours too. Big fan of yours too. Appreciate you coming through. But Stuart, let's go ahead and kick off this show, man, with our first segment, shall we?
Let's do it.
And we're going to get into our honorable mentions for you guys. Some topics that we felt definitely deserved to be brought to your attention. Didn't quite make the cut. There's actually like 2 items on here that I really wanted to put into our main topics, but there was just so much stuff to talk about today. So I decided to at least put them into the honorable mention section. First up, if you've been paying attention to the Michael Jackson biopic or have any interest in it, his nephew, Jafar Jackson, photos have been making rounds of him as the king of pop as of late. And I think this man just looks exactly like his uncle, honestly. It's pretty startling to see. Great makeup job, great wigs and things like that. There was this photo, Stuart, this week that dropped of him also that for some reason, I just ignored for like 2-3 days on end because I was just like, oh, it's just a picture of Michael Jackson. Like, it's nothing to read here. And then I eventually come to find out, like, no, that's Jafar Jackson as Michael Jackson. And I'm like, oh my God, like the man looks just like him. So they seem like they're doing pretty good when it comes to the filming of this. I don't know how the film itself is going to certainly turn out, but if you're talking about trying to find somebody that looks just like Michael Jackson, kudos to the casting job here for picking him up. If anything, I will be interested to see what his performance is going to be like. That'll definitely make or break it for me. But if you're looking for somebody that looks like the king of pop, Jafar Jackson is it, man. What do you think about it, Stuart?
So far, just looking at him, yeah, you are 100% spot on. He looks a lot like Michael Jackson. And yeah, I think that whatever kind of makeup that they're using, and I just I look forward to seeing this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how they portray this. Next up, we did get ourselves some brand new images from the upcoming Joker 2, Folie à Deux, if you will. We had this interesting color photo. This almost looks like a heart-shaped kind of design. I don't know how they pulled this off, but getting an opportunity to see the Joker and Harley. We also got some black and white photos here. It looks like Harley visiting him in his jail cell or his psych ward cell, whatever the case may be. And then, of course, we got this lovely image here of them dancing. Now, I do believe one of the executive producers came out and said, like, while they talk about this as a musical, he did say, make no mistake, it's not entirely a musical. That there probably will be some musical pieces in here from time to time. So it looks very much like them it feels like I don't want to say a daydream, but it feels like them living in their heads a little bit, Stuart. I don't know if this is all Harley, if there's going to be moments of Harley doing the daydreaming, if there's going to be moments of the Joker kind of thinking about Harley sort of thing. So it doesn't sound like it's going to be one long sort of musical with like music sets here and there sort of thing and performances, but we may get ourselves one or two there. So I kind of like the balance that they're probably going to have here. But what do you think about some of these photos?
Yeah, I do love how trying to think of the word. God, I know there's a word for this. I just can't think of what it is. But when it's like specifically with that last photo where it's like them with the city landscape, when it's something that isn't meant to look realistic, it's just meant to kind of show that it's not like what you're seeing isn't even like really happening. It's supposed to be like in the character's imagination. I know there's a word for that. I just can't think of it at the top of my head at the moment, but I do really love that imagery that they're going with. I think that depending on how they write Harley Quinn in this movie, because we already kind of have an idea of how they're going to write the Joker, I do think this makes a lot of sense that the two of them would be living in their own world, in their own space, where like anything that they think is true is kind of true, basically.
Yeah.
Nothing beyond the two of them really matters. It kind of looks like that's what they're going for with their relationship. I do really look forward to seeing whether or not she's as crazy as he is from the get-go, or if being her therapist, just like in the comic books, is what kind of drives her to go insane and fall in love with him.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and yeah, I do think that the two of them look like they're going to have some really interesting on-screen chemistry. Cannot wait to see a teaser.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm really looking for a teaser. Maybe we'll get something come San Diego Comic-Con or whatever the case may be. But yeah, when I think I will agree with you. I do love the backdrop of this. I don't know why in my head, because I'm such an old person. I used to watch a lot of black and white stuff kind of growing up as a kid, but I just get like honeymooner vibes for some reason with the gigantic moon in the background. Looks like it's just a fake background setting sort of thing that you would see in like a classic 60s or 50s kind of show.
One of these days, straight to the moon.
Yeah, dude. This is a vibe I definitely get. Next up, man, the topic that I think a lot of you guys want to talk about today, X-Men 97, baby. Man, I got to tell you, Marvel has been hot all week long. Not only giving us Deadpool and Wolverine, but also dropping this a few days later. This is the official poster. Oops, did I drop it? This is the official poster for the X-Men 97, set to go ahead and hit Disney Plus March 20th. So if you guys plan on doing a rewatch of the original series, now is the time. You got less than a month to wrap up the series. New episodes, new era. Talk about nostalgia with this damn poster, Stuart. I mean, it just brought me back to watching it on Saturday mornings, especially the way that the trailer kind of kicks off with like the presentation of the last episode, like, coming season finale, coming Saturday morning sort of thing. I'm just like, oh my God, it just felt so good to be back during this time period. But I have some photos that we'll definitely show, but I'll let you. Have you checked out the trailer yourself?
I have, yeah.
What are some of your thoughts on the trailer that we got so far?
I really like the art. I love that they started it out with reminding us what happened in the very last episode of the previous series to let you know that this is a direct continuation. This is not a reboot. It is, or I mean, it technically is a reboot, but it is like basically a direct continuation of the series, which I really love. I think the art style looks great. When it comes to the animation, however, I just don't think I've seen enough of it to have an opinion on whether or not it looks like it's going to be good animation or not. I'm assuming it is, especially with how long it took them to make this. But I think the art is spot on. I love the voices because it's like the same classic voices, only slightly different here and there. But like, I like how you have kind of the same quips from a lot of the characters, and especially from Wolverine. Like the scene right here, actually from the trailer, very much reminds me of like, some of the more kind of funny quips that he would give like in the cartoon, which of course, they had to water down compared to the comic books because this was a cartoon for kids. But speaking of which, I am curious with this one going for an older audience. I am wondering if they're going to go the Samurai Jack route, where they it's still gonna feel very much in line with the original series, but you may hear a character curse, and then you may also see a little more blood than you normally would have in the original series, without like completely changing the tone. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of shows that'll do that when they come back. They'll come back with a more mature rating, but they do a good job of still feeling like it's the same show. Like Young Justice did it, Samurai Jack did it, and I'm hoping this is another show that can do it just as good as those.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope so too. I mean, the fact alone, especially in this image right here, if you look closely, you can see Jean Grey is pregnant, very much so.
Mhm.
So the fact that they're going to tackle the idea that's like, oh, somebody had sex on the show and now they're about to have a baby. Like, I don't know if they would have gone that far. And I mean, granted, we're not going to see them have sex on the show, but the implications there. And then along, I think even in the trailer, they kind of show them rubbing her stomach and whatnot. So looks like Jean Grey and Scott have definitely been busy. And if anything, I will say, I think for me, I what really stands out is the idea of like Cyclops is back, baby. Like if you've ever felt like Cyclops has just been ruined over the years, being supplanted by a Wolverine sort of thing, the leader is back. Okay,
Mhm.
to me, my X-Men, like yes, like this is exactly what I want to hear. But I would agree with you. I like the animation style. The lines look pretty clean. I mean, there are some moments in the trailer that I'm just like, oh, I don't really know, but I do think for the most part, it'll definitely hit us very much like nostalgic X-Men with a little bit of a twist. I thought Storm had some really great, powerful moments in here that we'll highlight. And if anything, there is a great Entertainment Weekly article for you guys if you want to dive a little bit further into the series itself. We did go ahead and post it over on our Facebook page for you guys to go ahead and check out. I'll read a little bit from it. But it does say that X-Men 97 picks up after the events of the animated series finale, Graduation Day episode, which saw a gravely injured Charles Xavier leave his team of mutants behind to recover in outer space in the care of Lilandra among the Shi'ar Empire. The showrunner or somebody says some fans said that when the show ended the last time 30 years ago, it felt like it was cut short. Well, finally, you're gonna get that more. You'll be able to find out what happened next. And it says, while Xavier believes in the world in which humans and mutants can coexist, Magneto, the longtime adversary, is now the leader of the superhero team. The showrunner says it's always interesting to take Xavier's dream and turn it on its head. When I first came to this, I was thinking about what the world of the 90s was like. Even issues of social acceptance and what does it mean to be different. It was so much more simplistic than it is today. The X-Men spent years telling humanity to embrace the future, walk into the future together. What happens when they get hit with the future they didn't see coming? What does it feel like to be on the other end when you feel like that future is leaving you behind? And yeah, there are some voice actors that I do believe are returning to reprise some of their roles. They do have some new people in here as well. um they also tease like Rogue is still Rogue and has the same issues. A lot of folks can relate to that, to her wanting to be loved, wanting to belong, wanting to be touched and not being accepted for who you are. There are a lot of LGBTQ folks who tell me that they can really relate to her because of the same reasons. Rogue really embodies that because she's always seems to be struggling with accepting herself for who she is, warts and all. And then they do break down a little bit of the voice cast that are going to be there as well. It says there are many reasons behind some of the recastings, is what the showrunner winds up saying, that range from more authentic presentations to vocal intonations. He uses Cable and Cyclops' relationship as an example, saying, Cable is a time displaced son of Cyclops from the future timeline and has a huge arc in X-Men 97. It really is about how do we make sure that the audience knows that this is a weird relationship where father is younger than the son, and making sure the vocal qualities tell that story when they're talking to each other. So it says Jean Grey is the epitome of empathy. She's the one person who truly understands the sacrifice that is necessary to be an X-Man. And they go on and on. So it's a great article, man. A really great insight into what the upcoming series is going to be about. But man, I got to tell you, they definitely have me excited for this. I thought this was an amazing, amazing first look for X-Men 97. But yeah, let us know your thoughts, guys, down below. What you guys thought of this trailer.
Yeah.
And then last but not least for our honorable mentions, we got Godzilla -1 back in the news. This was a pretty eye-opening. Empire Magazine has a great article that just dropped where the director talks about the idea of a possible sequel. Stuart, he teases it just a little bit in his in this article. He says if a storm is coming. Oh wait, let me see. He says I would certainly like to see what a sequel would look like, says the director. I know that Shikishimi's war seems over and we've reached this stage of peace and calm, but perhaps it's the calm before the storm and the characters have not yet been forgiven for what has been imposed upon them. And if you have had the opportunity to see Godzilla -1, you definitely understand the gravitas of just what sort of Godzilla really represents for a lot of these characters. He says, I don't know that anyone has pulled off a more serious tone of kaiju versus kaiju with human drama. And that challenge is something that I'd like to explore. He says, but given -1's clear focus on its human story, keeping the carnage and the character in balance would be essential for the director. He says, when you have movies that feature kaiju battles, I think it's very easy to put the spotlight and the camera on this massive spectacle, and it detaches itself from the human drama component. To make sure that the human drama and whatever's happening between the kaiju both have meaning and both are able to affect one another in terms of plot development. And then it says, if anyone can figure that out, it is Yamazaki, who is the director for Godzilla -1. And honestly, Stuart, like that gives me personally a lot of great comfort to know like how he personally wants to handle it. Because I do think one of the successful aspects of Godzilla -1 was the human aspect, the heart, and them really being the focus with sort of Godzilla being the symbolic aspect of things. So the idea of just seeing his mentality in the sense of like, look, if we're going to do a sequel, clearly we have to go bigger, right? There
Mhm.
clearly would be a kaiju versus kaiju battle in here, but without the idea of the spectacle taking over the whole movie, how do you balance that out? So the fact that that's even on his mind gives me great comfort that I think if there's anybody capable of doing that, it's definitely him.
Yeah. So one thing I had heard was that Godzilla -1 was meant to be kind of the Kickstarter of a new like Godzilla cinematic universe, kind of like in
Mm,
the old days.
okay.
But like they wanted to kind of go with a more MCU kind of streamlined way of doing it. So instead of it just being like Godzilla versus one monster, Godzilla versus another monster, they kind of want to like set it up a little bit more. So I do think that if the next sequel for a Godzilla movie is Godzilla versus another kaiju, I think it's both a great way to continue that story with Godzilla -1 and set up possibly even more, movies in the future. I do think that if that's the direction you want to go in, and like they said, I think he'd be the perfect director to tackle it. I think the way they should go about it is making sure that the monster that Godzilla fighting is an even worse monster than him. And I don't mean worse as in more powerful. So don't do King Ghidorah right off the bat. Save him for like a final battle, but do something like Rodan, I think, or Anguirus, I think that's his name, the weird one, the turtle looking one with the shell,
Oh,
not to be
okay.
confused with Gamera. But do something like that where like, yeah, they're basically their whole thing is that they just want to destroy everything. And so maybe have it be that like, they kind of have to rely on Godzilla, even though Godzilla is also like a creature of absolute destruction. The only way to fight destruction is with more destruction, something like that. I think that's one direction you can go in. There's so many more, but like it said in the article, I think if anyone can figure out how to tackle like a good human storyline along with having like the cool, fun kaiju fight that we all know and love, I think it's this director. He did it with just one kaiju. Now let's see if he can do the same thing with two.
The two, yeah, that'll definitely be an uphill battle for sure. And they definitely did leave some like little breadcrumbs towards the end in regards to teasing even some of the ailments that might kind of carry over for some of our humans that they personally might have to kind of struggle with at the end also. So yeah, it definitely should be interesting to see. Hopefully they announce one soon. I'm waiting on my hands for it too, because I think it's made it over like $100 million at the box office already off of like a $10 million budget or something crazy like that. So I'm definitely expect a sequel. But let us know your thoughts, guys, on Godzilla -1.
Speaking of which, I have a theory as to why the movie was. I mean, I know that part of it you can just you can blame on the fact that the CG artists were like underpaid for the movie, just like. But I feel like that's like kind of that's like a worldwide kind of thing. Like, because I know that Hollywood has that issue too, where they're underpaying, their VFX artists. So with that, I think the reason that this movie might have been cheaper to make than most Hollywood movies with a big budget, I think it just comes down to film permits. I feel like
Mm,
America is the only country where like doing anything with a camera, if it's going to be released in theaters, you have to pay thousands of dollars just to do anything. Oh, hey, you want to do a little short film in your neighborhood? Well, if the government knows about it, you have to pay them $1,000 to
mm,
do it.
I get
I
you.
don't think any other country has, because I did a little bit of research after this, because I was like, it couldn't just be labor. That can't be the only reason this movie was made so cheap. So I was like looking into it, and the only difference I can really find is when it comes to permits, and also how much we charge for renting out sound stages and things like that.
Oh
I
yeah.
think we actually charge a lot more, or I say we as if I'm part of it. No, I think Hollywood charges more than most like other studios around the country. So those are the reasons that I can find. But anyone in the comments, if you have anything that I might be missing, something that isn't has nothing to do with permits, has nothing to do with renting sound stages, and has nothing to do with labor, let me know if there's anything else you think might have been the reason for it. Because this is just, I don't know why it's been bothering me so much, but it bothers me that like other countries are able to make movies that look as good as like, Hollywood productions, but for so much less money. I'm like, what are we doing? How are we messing up this badly?
Well, look, I will say this. I do think to this day that I think we are capable of making movies for less. I just think we're choosing not to.
Yeah.
I definitely do think that we could cut off a good 20 million here, 30 million here, for some of these films. But they're just being made for an exorbitant amount of money that I definitely think they have certainly the control of whether or not it's going to be that expensive, unfortunately. Because yeah, the amount of money that they use to make these bloated budgets really even is what's really, I think, affecting the tickets at the box office. They need to make that money back, so they just bump up the ticket prices. So hopefully movies made for less will hopefully bring down the ticket prices a little bit more, but who knows? I don't even know if that's something that can be reversed at this point. But what is
Mhm.
interesting is that Godzilla minus one, you mentioned the idea of the VFX. I think that's the only category that it has been nominated for at the Oscars this year is for visual effects for Godzilla minus one. I definitely do think it was deserving for another place, maybe like an international film or something like that. But it is nominated at least for one Oscar this year.
Honestly, if it were up to me, I would have nominated it for both Best Director and for Best
Yeah.
Picture.
Best picture. Yeah, I would definitely would have put it up there for sure. But let us know your guys' thoughts on the idea of a potential Godzilla minus one sequel. And with that, Stuart, let's go ahead and get into our main topics, man. You ready to go ahead and kick off the show?
Always.
Let's do it. Look, it is time to celebrate, ladies and gentlemen. We have been eagerly anticipating the announcement for the Fantastic Forecast, and it is upon us finally. This week on Valentine's Day, no less. A day I definitely was not expecting any sort of big reveals to certainly drop. We wind up getting the official cast announcement for Fantastic Four, and I think the buzz around this movie just continues to grow. I think a lot. I've been seeing things online, Stuart, of like this is gonna save the MCU. Like people have been really pumped about this concept, and it's not just the idea of Fantastic Four coming, but I do think it's also the idea of the possible setting of this upcoming film. We did have a couple of announcements. The announcement that I actually had pulled up looks like it dropped off of here for me. Let me see if I can reload this for you. But you really get the vibes of the time period in which they are certainly going for in here. A lot of people immediately picked up on the Time magazine article that you see Ben Grimm, The Thing, reading. And that particular article or that particular magazine from the Times was, I think, back at December of 1963, maybe the beginning of 1964. So you immediately get the idea of the setting for this film. But this is the official announcement that they dropped for Valentine's Day, as you get to see the cast there. We have, for those of you who are not aware, we've got Pedro Pascal officially cast as Reed Richards, that we've talked about here before. Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm. We definitely have reported upon that before. Joseph Quinn coming through as Johnny Storm, fresh off of his really sort of breaking into, I don't want to say breaking in, but breaking out, I should say, from Stranger Things. And then, of course, Ebon Moss Bachrach going to be playing Ben Grimm, the Thing, in here also. I'm not gonna lie, Stuart. I have seen some people with the pushback in regards to some of these cast members. Probably not the cast members that I think we all sort of fan casted, but I do think it's also important to remember. We don't see the script. We don't really know what they're asking for from these particular characters and their portrayal. So, what we personally want our Fantastic Four to be may not necessarily line up with what the script is asking for. But I think we've got some incredibly, incredibly talented actors on this list that I think you give them any sort of material and they're just going to go ahead and crush it, honestly. They also did reveal a really cool Fantastic Four logo. I really love all these callbacks to the 60s. And for those of you who don't know, I believe Matt Shackman, I think he's the director, if I'm not mistaken. If you can look that up, Stuart, who's the writer and director for the Fantastic Four movie? I think he's actually coming. I think he's actually coming fresh off of WandaVision. And if you guys recall WandaVision, I mean, with it being sort of that sitcom in that particular time period, also, I think the idea that this very much feels like a Matt Shackman sort of project here. But yeah, man, we finally officially have our cast members here, and I'm loving them. I'm loving the designs. I am going to be very curious to see how they place them into the present day MCU. But I'm a big fan of period pieces that definitely come out of the MCU so far. So, what are your thoughts on some of this, Stuart? How are you feeling about the casting announcements? Are you excited for this? Do you think the cast looks good? We've even had some amazing fan art. This is just an example from the artist Phil Nato, I believe his name is. But I've been doing a lot of retweeting of some of the fan art over on our Twitter account if you want to check some of those out. But yeah, Stuart, how are you feeling about this?
Everything I'm hearing so far, nothing but good news. I really like the director that they got because he's done a lot of TV. Excuse me, sorry. Sorry about that. Okay, he's done a lot of TV, but that ranges because he's done cheap sitcoms like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia to, as you know, WandaVision and then Monarch and Game of Thrones. So this guy has a lot of range. So I think that's cool that they chose him. And I love that it's going to be a period piece because it's something new to the MCU, I think, to an extent. Like we've had Captain America, I know. And then technically, if you want to count Captain Marvel, yes, it being in the 90s, but the 60s is definitely an area we haven't explored yet. I really hope these are actually accurate costumes to what we're going to get in the movie, because I think that if we're going to do 60s, it wouldn't make sense for them to have like costumes that look very modern. It feels like if they feel dated, that would just feel perfectly in line with the 60s. I think it should kind of, to an extent, feel slightly dated. And
yeah, Pedro looks like he's rocking a sweater almost.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, so that's cool. I love that it's the 60s, and I think it also makes sense with that one like kind of one-off line you hear from Doctor Strange when he meets Mr. Fantastic, and he's like, "I'm sorry, Fantastic Four, weren't they?" I can't remember how he worded it, but I think like weren't they dated like in the 60s or something like that?
Oh yeah, Doctor Strange does have a callback to it.
Yeah, so I think that actually fits perfectly in line with what we hear in the MCU. So I even like the casting for the most part. None of these are characters I would have fan casted, but seeing them, I can see them doing a really good job. I guess I could nitpick at the fact that the guy playing the Thing was already in the MCU because he did play the Punisher's best friend. But then again, we also have Mahershala Ali, who's going to be playing Blade, even though he already played what's his name, Cottonmouth, right, in Kingpin. Yeah. So I don't think that's like a big issue. It's not like they haven't reused the same actors for other MCU projects before. Yeah, awesome vibes. Last thing I will say, is I really hope that the Thing's costume is practical and not
Oh man,
CG. It's very unlikely because it is Marvel, but man, they did such a good job. I know a lot of people like to crap on the 2004 Fantastic
it
Four
was
movie,
great.
but that costume was awesome.
It was
You
badass.
cannot deny that was a great costume, and I would love to see something like that in this movie.
Yeah, I hope so too. Because I do feel like, for me, the first Fantastic Four was definitely a guilty pleasure. It's definitely a film that I can continue, I can put on and still enjoy to this day. But when I look at the Thing costume, I'm still blown away how they pulled that off. And I do think if anybody does have sort of high praise for those films, outside of Chris Evans being a great Johnny Storm, I think the Thing costume. And so I hope that they carry over some of those things that did work from previous Fantastic Four movies and bring that over, because I didn't care for the Fantastic Stick Four, whatever you call it.
Fan Four stick.
Fan Four Stick. I didn't really care for that Thing design at all. But shout out also, I think it does need to be brought to our attention that we've got Herbie in this movie. The robot here, the robot companion to the Fantastic Four. I think that's going to be a nice wrinkle that, if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe has been introduced before in the Fantastic Four movies. For those of you who don't know, Herbie, he is the little robot companion you see sitting there next to the Thing also. As far as the cast goes, look, when they mentioned the idea of Vanessa Kirby, I was like, yes, please. I absolutely love the concept of her as Sue Storm. I am a big fan of Joseph Quinn. I certainly want to see a little bit more of him. But, for some reason, Joseph Quinn has been getting a lot of pushback on Twitter for him being cast as Johnny Storm. And again, I do think that people can certainly have their own fan casting, but if this movie is in fact set in the 60s, I think he works great. I mean, some people may not realize this, but he is sort of like a modern day sort of heartthrob. After his role in Stranger Things, coming off of the Hellfire Club, I've gone to a panel of his when he was here at Fan Expo Dallas, and I gotta say, his panel was like the most packed panel there that week. And it was a bunch of like women and little girls that were just screaming half the time, just absolutely in love with this man and any little thing that he had to say. And what's fascinating with Joseph Quinn is he's pretty quiet. He's a pretty quiet and sort of self-contained dude. He doesn't really take that fame, and he's not super flamboyant on stage. He seems like he's pretty shy and kind of to himself. So I'm really interested to kind of see how he takes. It's a completely different mentality than what you see him in when it comes to Stranger Things. So I do think that Joseph Quinn can really tap into sort of that heartthrob, the wild one that takes all the risks, knows that he's good looking, and sort of just kind of carries that sort of mentality around. So I think Joseph Quinn he wasn't my first choice. I was really asking for Dacre Montgomery from Power Rangers, the 2017, the Red Ranger. I was really hoping that he would land the role, but I'm not mad about Joseph Quinn at all. Even Ebon as the Thing. I think when it comes to the Thing, you really have got to have an actor that can sort of balance out the not only the friendship that he has with Reed Richards at first, but then when he turns to the Thing, you got to have somebody that has that gravitas of like, my life is ruined, that can get really dark about the idea of like, I'll never be myself again, nobody's gonna love me sort of mentality. And I do think as an actor, I think he can really emote and portray those emotions incredibly well. So, I definitely do. There is a wait and see for me with him as Ben Grimm, but I can understand maybe why they picked him. And if there's anybody on this cast that I still have a question mark from, not because of his acting ability, but it is Pedro Pascal. Like he definitely was not my first. He definitely was not my second. He probably wasn't even my third choice of as Reed Richards. But he is more than a capable actor of absolutely destroying this role if he certainly wanted to. And I mean destroy in the best sense of the word.
Mhm.
And so I do think he can carry himself very much as the not only the most intelligent person in the room, but the smartest man in the world sort of thing. And I think, again, because we are in the 60s, I do think there is a different mentality for a Reed Richards. And I will be interested to see what their chemistry is going to be like between Pedro and Vanessa, because I think it's important for us to remember they didn't just like cast these people and like, yeah, you're our guy. I'm pretty sure they did screen tests, chemistry tests to see how they all work well with each other, certainly as a team sort of thing. And even though I don't necessarily know if this was Marvel's first choice, because we heard John Krasinski at one point, we heard Adam Driver especially was offered this particular role. So he may not even been Marvel's second or third choice either. But the fact that he landed this role, I do think something has to be said. If you're in this movie, you have had to have at least had some sort of great chemistry with all four of them if they're going to be considered sort of the first family of the Marvel MCU sort of thing. So there are definitely some people on here I absolutely think are a slam dunk. And there are some people that I think definitely need to prove themselves, but not from an acting perspective. It's just the idea of when I see you on screen, can you make me believe that you're these characters? And I think they have the potential of doing that, Stuart.
Yes, definitely. There, you actually bring up a really good point. Is that even if Pedro Pascal isn't most people's like first choice for it, if a lot of people really wanted Jonathan Krasinski, it could be that like they thought, okay, yes, technically maybe Jonathan Krasinski would have been a better Mr. Fantastic, but maybe he just didn't have the chemistry that Pedro Pascal is able to have with other actors, and so that could have been like kind of the final decision that let them choose Pedro Pascal instead, because I haven't seen a single thing he's in where he isn't amazing at like kind of having on-screen chemistry with people. Yeah. When you look at, I mean, he's able to have the best on-screen chemistry with a freaking puppet, man. And yet it feels like the most believable father-son kind of relationship. You know what I mean? So I definitely think this is a great choice overall. Even though like you, he wouldn't have been my first choice. I still think he's gonna absolutely kill it in this role. Something I'm curious about though, now with this being a period piece and with Fantastic Four being a very old comic book, if you look at some of the older issues, there are definitely some Mr. Fantastic moments that don't quite hold up as well. And I'm wondering if they're going to use the time period as an excuse to kind of bring out that more kind of sexist side of Mr. Fantastic, because we've seen him in what was it, in Game of Thrones, not that he was like sexist in Game of Thrones, but he was obviously kind of a ladies' man in Game of Thrones. So I'm wondering if we'll see a little more of that side of him, like kind of in with it being in the 60s. Maybe he has that kind of like old school mentality of women are meant to stay at home type of mentality. Give us like, because like I could see basically make him unlikable. I'm wondering if they might do something like that in this movie, because I could see him doing both sides of Mr. Fantastic very well. The modern, more more modern Mr. Fantastic, where he's smart but he's also a good person, or the classic 60s. Well, this was considered a good person at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I will be interested to see how they modernize them eventually. Maybe by the end of this movie, maybe there's some. I am kind of curious. How do you even bring them into sort of our current day sort of MCU? I think you make a good point with the callback of Doctor Strange, even referencing him in Multiverse of Madness. And to be honest with you, when it comes to John Krasinski, like, as much as I was asking for him, when I saw him in Multiverse of Madness, his performance wasn't everything to me. Like he may visually look like a great Reed Richards, but I don't think he had a scene in Multiverse of Madness where I was like, wow, like that dude did an incredible job as Reed Richards. But then again, it was Multiverse of Madness and did fall by the wayside a little bit for some people in certain regards to it. But I do want to go ahead and bring up a couple articles here that might give us a little bit more insight into this movie itself, along with the casting. So let me go ahead and pull this up here for us, and we'll dive in a little bit more to further details about this movie. From Variety.com, talking about it lands its cast, does talk about them a little bit. It says, as part of the casting announcement, it also is important to point out that Disney has swapped release dates of the Fantastic Four. It says now set for July 25th of 2025, which in turn, Stuart, I think is 2 weeks separating itself from Superman Legacy, mind you. It's interesting. Last week we were talking about the idea of like what's going to be the bigger film, Deadpool and Wolverine or Superman Legacy. I think the new question should now be Fantastic Four or Superman Legacy. But it will be dropping the same month as Superman Legacy now.
You got one of the most iconic teams of Marvel versus the most iconic superhero of DC. So I don't know, man. The one thing Superman has going for it is that there's actually been good Superman movies in the past. But other than that,
Yeah, I was about to say, you know, both movies are really coming off of sort of a retooling and a rebooting, if you will. So it will be interesting to see how people gravitate towards them. The article also does say something interesting in here. And Thunderbolts is now set for May 2nd of 2025. I don't want to say that that contradicts what Bob Iger said, because I think one of the things that we mentioned was, you know, Bob Iger mentioned two movies for 2025 being Captain America, Brave New World, and the Fantastic Four, but there was no mention of Thunderbolts in his announcement. Whether or not he purposefully meant to leave it off or he just didn't bring it up, the article is at least stating that now they have swapped dates. So Fantastic Four is scheduled for July 25th, and they have Thunderbolts set for May 2nd of 2025. And mind you, Thunderbolts is set to get in front of cameras here, I think sometime in March. So whether or not they can hit that May 2nd date, we'll definitely see. It says those are two of four Marvel tentpole movies currently set to open 2025. They mentioned Brave New World. They even put Blade on this list in November. I don't personally see that happening either, but we'll definitely have to see how that kind of comes together. It says Matt Shackman will direct Fantastic Four from a screenplay by Josh Friedman, Jeff Kaplan, and Ian Springer. News of Pascal's casting first leaked back in November, but Marvel had otherwise tried to keep a tight lid on who would play Marvel's first family. Filming is expected to begin by the summertime. Let's see. It says, until now, however, the Fantastic Four has not been a part of Marvel Cinematic Universe. The movie rights belonged instead to 20th Century Fox. And then after those films, they do talk about the merger and things like that. It says, typically, the central villain for Fantastic Four is Victor Von Doom, one of the most important and fearsome villains in the Marvel canon. But Marvel has yet to announce who the quartet will battle in this movie. And so that's really all that Variety states. But we do have another report here from comicbook.com that does give us a little bit more insight in regards to who the potential villain could possibly be for this movie. So let's go ahead and dive into this article. Not KFC, y'all. The Fantastic Four new report teases big plans for Galactus Silver Surfer in MCU debut. So we could have ourselves a world eater here. It says Fantastic Four will reportedly feature Galactus as its central antagonist with a supporting role for the Silver Surfer, according to a new rumor from veteran entertainment reporter Jeff Snyder. It says, according to Snyder's report, Galactus will be the film's main villain, with Marvel hoping to land Javier Bardem for the role. They have reportedly not yet figured out who they're looking at for the Silver Surfer, although the studio is reportedly meeting with actors now. The story further claims that Doctor Doom will show up in the movie, but only at the end, maybe in sort of a post-credit stinger, so he doesn't have to be cast until later into production. It says the rumor has some pedigree, not just from Snyder's own considerable experience, but the actual sources too. According to Snyder's report, Bardem news comes from the same person who initially told him Pedro would play Reed Richards, a rumor that has since been confirmed. Snyder concedes that Antonio Banderas had previously been rumored for the part of Galactus, but says that currently scheduling is the only thing standing in the way of making a deal with Bardem. And I do think that we've heard Javier Bardem's name brought up before in the past when it comes to Galactus possibly. But it says, if Galactus really is the villain in Fantastic Four, Marvel has a chance to do something very funny for the fans, since the movie debuts just 2 weeks after Superman Legacy. A throwaway joke could reference Galactus's role in the destruction of Krypton or something like that. So that'd be interesting. But yeah, it looks like potentially so far, according to Jeff Snyder. So again, this is just a rumor. Take this as a grain of salt. It has not been confirmed, but Snyder's usually pretty on it. The idea of possibly Galactus being the main villain, with Silver Surfer maybe playing a role, and Doctor Doom maybe having sort of a post-credit scene here. What are your thoughts on that, Stuart?
I really hope the rumors of Javier Bardem as Galactus are true, because
I
that would
love his
be
voice.
amazing,
Yeah, he's got a great
amazing
voice for
freaking
it.
casting. Yes, especially if they're going with like kind of an echoey voice like you normally would get in like the Fantastic Four cartoons. Oh my gosh, that is great. Yeah, when it comes to the Silver Surfer, not super picky about who they cast as it, because I'm assuming it's mostly going to be a voice role. Again, kind of going back to Marvel, they tend to use a lot of CG, so I'm kind of expecting the Silver Surfer to be a mostly CG character. I wouldn't mind having Lawrence Fishburne reprise his role though, if
Mm.
because you know, if we're already reusing MCU actors, why not Lawrence Fishburne as well? And same with Doctor Doom. If we do have a end credit scene with Doctor Doom, something I would love to see is not necessarily this character as Doctor Doom, but rather see him as what, shoot, what's I'm so sorry. What's Doctor Doom's name again? Something Baxter, right?
I thought it was always Victor Von Doom. No,
Victor. Oh, it was Victor Von Doom. Wow, why am I saying Baxter? Sorry, I'm thinking of the wow.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Baxter Stockman or something.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, I don't know. Wow. Okay. Sorry, Victor Von Doom. That was the easiest name to remember, and I somehow messed that up. That is so embarrassing. And I did it live in front of everyone. So everyone tell me how I'm a fake fan.
You're not a
Please.
real fan, Stuart. Okay.
Exactly. But that all being said, though, you know, I kind of hope we get Victor Von Doom, but before he becomes like Doctor Doom. I would love to see them kind of wait on that one, because, you know, in the previous Fantastic Four movies, it's always been we get introduced to him and then he becomes Doctor Doom. I'd like to see a movie where we just get introduced to him and then just kind of build that up later on.
Yeah, I will be interested to see how they pull this off. I mean, for me, the idea of bringing in Galactus, I just think if they do that, it probably plays more into a bigger role or a bigger story arc for the direction in which the MCU is going, really leading into you know, the fifth Avengers movie and then upcoming Secret Wars. You know, I don't know. Clearly, this is going to be taking place, or at least releasing before any of those Avenger films. So I do wonder if the idea of like Galactus being a world eater, you know, if maybe you know, I don't know how they saved their world in the 60s sort of thing, but maybe it's this mentality of like, you know, look, there's a multiverse of worlds out there, you know, and, you know, maybe set his sights on the idea of, you know, destroying other worlds and dealing with the concept of incursions somehow, if you will. Maybe all of this kind of leading up to a more epic sort of a Secret Wars Avengers film. So I do think that there's a interesting role that Galactus and Silver Surfer can definitely play in this movie. You know, how they would pull off a Doctor Doom. You know, look, I think if you go the Jonathan Hickman route of Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars, you know, Doctor Doom plays a massive role in there. So how do you not only introduce us to Victor Von Doom as a teaser, but also implicating the close relationship that he has with Reed Richards? Is he already in his armored suit at the end of this? Do we find out that, you know, maybe Doctor Doom is playing a role behind the scenes in regards to the events of what's happening in the Fantastic Four movie, and maybe an even bigger role in the future Secret Wars? I don't know how you fit all that into an end credit scene for the Fantastic Four, but I will be interested to see how this kind of all comes together, because it feels like you're going one of the biggest baddies for the Fantastic Four right out the gate. And so I can understand if this maybe ruffles some people's feathers the wrong way. Like, no, you need to start off with Doctor Doom. I'm not gonna lie, Stuart. There was a part of me that was kind of hoping for a Mole Man, a Danny DeVito Mole Man appearance, or being the first one. But you know, I don't know how serious anybody would take it. But definitely a lot of potential for some great things, I think, coming out of this first Fantastic Four movie from the MCU. Hopefully, it's not too much for you know, a first outing. But I'm the setting alone, the cast members, I'm kind of intrigued for sure.
Yeah. I think that if we're using Galactus though in the first movie, I guarantee you they are not going to defeat him. They're going to find a way to delay the inevitable, basically. And I think
Right.
that'll be like why we see Galactus later on in modern times in the MCU. Whether or not we see the Fantastic Four, they're ready to fight by the Avengers sides. Who knows? I kind of hope we do, but I'm not sure how they'll write that in. But yeah. For me, I am not. That's the only reason I'm not too worried about them using Galactus in the first movie. Is just because I know that if
It
they're
has a
smart,
feeling there's
yeah,
more to it, right?
exactly. If they're smart about it, they're not going to have the Fantastic Four defeat Galactus. They're going to have them delay the inevitable, and that'll be it.
We got Frankie in the house. What's up, Frankie? He says, "Happy Sunday, all! Getting excited about the Fantastic Four. Pedro is growing on me for Reed. He's growing on me too. I was hoping for Rudy Pankow for Johnny Storm, but let's see what Joseph can do. Loved him in Stranger Things. Yeah, I was a big fan of him. And he also says Stuart's point about the gender roles might also be on point, as I'm hearing that Sue will be the focus. So I can see that. When I think also when you get somebody as impactful as a Vanessa Kirby. If you haven't seen her in The Crown, definitely check her out. She's an amazing talent for sure. I definitely do think I can see her certainly as the focus, and along with her and Pedro really being sort of the lead roles in this movie. So I do think it might be onto something there, Stuart, along with Frankie. Tony Robinson in the house. What's up, Tony? Galactus should be Steve Barvey. He could devour you with his suit. Marcelino says, I saw some people say that Galactus from the Rise of the Silver Surfer movie is better than anything from Phase 4 and 5, except for No Way Home and Get Out of Here, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I will respectfully disagree with those comments. See, I know people like to say
I'm
that.
sure some people, I'm sure for some people they're big fans of it for sure. But I just, I'm not on board with that one.
I will say this, I definitely get the point of, 4 and 5 definitely going down hill compared to, the first 3 phases of Marvel. But that being said, I'll take the worst of phases 4 and 5 over Fantastic Four 2 or Fan 4 Stick any day. Not the first Fantastic Four movie, because I actually do think it's okay. I don't think the first Fantastic Four movie is as bad as people say. I thought it was all right.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, to each their own. I'm sure everybody has certainly their own opinions. But I definitely will take anything Phase 4 and 5 over Rise of the Silver Surfer, with the exception of maybe Secret Invasion. You can have Secret Invasion. I'll give Rise of the Silver Surfer over.
Okay, yeah. I was thinking of the movies. I wasn't thinking of the shows.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. Yeah, I'm just thinking.
That's the show I don't want to sit through again. Maybe the first episode, but that's it.
Let's see here. Tony says, I feel next year DC will drop Superman Legacy, Waller, and Peacemaker season 2. I'll be interested to see where Waller falls into place. But Creature Commandos, I think, is scheduled for fall of this year. So definitely be getting a little bit of it. Early appetizer for the DCU. But guys, look, we want to know your thoughts. Fantastic Four officially cast. I have a feeling this is probably not everybody's fan casting, and guess what? That is certainly okay. But I do think when you're asking for great talent to represent these characters, I think they definitely have won me over in that regards, and we'll definitely see what they can do on screen together. So I'm very excited for this. The ball is rolling here. 2025 should hopefully be a great year for the MCU, and hopefully this Fantastic Four movie is part of that, because this franchise really needs a win right now. It really does. But let's know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below.
Now, okay, I know I've seen someone fan cast Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm before, and I cannot remember for the life of me. Was that you or Indy as like an honorable mention when we were doing our fan casting video?
I don't remember. I think I had Dacre Montgomery, but I'm gonna have to go back and look at our Fantastic Forecasting and see if we got any of these right.
Yeah,
I don't think any of us had Pedro or Ebon as the Thing or Reed Richards, but it would be interesting to go back and check our Sue and Johnny Storm combinations.
Yeah, I think, man, the only fan casting I remember doing was Andrew Garfield as Johnny Storm.
Oh, that would have been pretty cool. That would have
Yeah,
been pretty cool. He's a great actor.
especially with Johnny Storm and Peter Parker being like best friends in the comics. I think it would have been really funny to have Tom Holland and Johnny Storm as like as buddies.
Yeah, man. Hopefully that's something that they'll establish later on in another Spider-Man movie or a sequel for Fantastic Four. I can't wait to see them on screen together for sure. It's got to happen. It's got to happen.
It better, yeah.
Gotta happen. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on the Fantastic Four announcement in the comment section box below. We're going to go ahead and switch course here. We're going to go from the MCU to the DCU, or I should say DC television at this point, because this is definitely going to make Stuart and a couple of other fans happy that have been asking for some Superman and Lois season 4 updates. I think we might have talked about this before, Stuart. The idea that when it comes to Superman and Lois, Our worries in regards to how are they going to release this, because I believe filming has already begun, if I'm not mistaken. And the idea of, are we going to get this during the summertime? Is this going to be a case of like, hey, because of the heavy special effects, we don't have all the episodes released, but we've got a couple, so we'll release a couple new episodes here, have like a week or two hiatus as we're finishing off post production, and then launching off the new episodes, and just this sort of back and forth scheduling for Superman and Lois. Well, we finally have an idea as to not only when Superman and Lois is certainly going to drop, but the idea of, will there be any hiatuses sort of mentality. So let's go ahead and dive into this, because there are a couple of pieces of information to certainly parse from this article. We got two articles in regards to this that I think are pretty interesting, but we will talk about the release date first. This is from tvline.com. Superman and Lois missing in action from CW's spring schedule. When will the final season land? So clearly it's not going to be dropping anytime soon here in March or April, but when can we certainly expect it? So let's go ahead and dive into this. It says the premiere date of Superman and Lois's fourth and final season, however, is nowhere to be seen on the CW springtime schedule. Instead, the last Arrowverse adjacent series Standing is being held for fall, TV Line has learned. As Brad Schwartz, president of the entertainment for the CW, explained during his TCA executive session, Superman and Lois final season is going to blow your minds. And since the series also requires meaningful post production, it was decided to showcase it for advertisers at the May upfronts and then premiere it in the fall. So this is what Schwartz says. He says, I'm not kidding. This season is going to be one of the best shows on TV. Not just the best. He's not even talking about just the best season of Superman and Lois. He's saying this is going to be one of the best shows on television. He says, I watched the first episode last night and it's going to make you cry. It's amazing. He says, because of all the special effects, it could be ready for summer, which is interesting, he says, but we feel like it would be wasted in the summer. So let's put it in the fall where we can sell it in the upfronts and really, really talk about it. Yeah, it says it's only 5 weeks ago that Superman and Lois began production on its 10-episode farewell run. The show's third season concluded back in June with Superman facing off against an iconic DC villain, Doomsday, who is now seemingly immortal after getting an assist from Lex Luthor. Both Hotchland and Cutlitz, who played Luthor, are returning as series regulars in season 4, alongside Bitsy Tulloch, Alex Garfin as Jordan, and Michael Bishop as Jonathan. So this is great news, Stuart, if you ask me. It sounds like we better get our tissues ready, honestly, for this last and final season. I need to personally catch up when it comes to Superman and Lois, to be quite frank with you. But I love the sound of this news, man. I think this is pretty brilliant. I think we kind of teased the idea, like, look, if we're not going to get this in the summer, it could be a little bit of a fall wait. So some people might be a little bit bummed about it, but I do honestly think that this is the right move. I think the idea is you want to get as much of this out of this last season as you possibly can. It sounds like this show continues to make great ratings, sort of thing. One of their biggest rated shows on the CW. So the idea of dropping this in summer when people are out on vacation, celebrating summer, their summer hiatus, from school and things like that, you want people back in front of the television screens. The fall time is very important for a lot of these upcoming television production companies. And so the idea of having to be able to sell it in front of your people come May, get that hype building, having maybe more investors put money into your company and things like that based off of this, get the opportunity to really get your marketing together, so you can promote the hell out of this final season. I think this is a really great choice, instead of feeling very much sort of last minute, let's cobble something together and just have it ready. Even though it can be ready, I think you really want that momentum to kind of build up. And what better way? Like, look, we missed out on this show last fall for you guys. Now this fall, it's back, y'all, and just really kind of thrust into it. So only 10 episodes, but it sounds like this is going to be amazing. Well, granted, I don't expect this guy to come out and say, look, guys, I'm really worried about this season. You may not want to watch, but I think the idea of some of the way that he expresses enthusiasm, he could have really delivered his excitement for this show in any other way. But as much as he boasted about it, I definitely do think that there's something there, and I think people are going to be really pleased with this one, Stuart. But as somebody that reviews Superman and Lois for us here, somebody that's a big Superman and Lois fan, how does all this land for you?
If they're excited about it, I'm excited about it. First off, them mentioning how this is going to be a season that that's going to make us cry. It's like, wow. So a full season of Lois going through cancer wasn't enough. Now you have to lay down some more emotional stuff for us. Okay. Yeah. So looking forward to that. The emotional aspect of the previous season was done so incredibly well, even if it did kind of punch down a little, just a tiny bit longer than I think it should have, But that being said, going into this season, I kind of figured the stakes are going to be huge. We got Doomsday. We got a very, very interesting take on Lex Luthor. Very different from the comics. Very different from most iterations of the character that we've seen before. So very curious. And now he's going to be coming back as a series regular. So I'm curious how that's going to go down. Also, the fact that they don't mention at all, the production being a hindrance, which is, awesome. Like they mentioned, because, the budget's going to be a lot lower this season. They don't have a lot of the cast members coming back as regulars. They're just going to be there as kind of guest stars, unfortunately. The fact that they're not letting that bring them down, the fact that they're still confident enough to say this is not only going to be the best season of Superman and Lois, but one of the best shows in television. If the first 3 seasons weren't as good as they were, I would have been like, is it? But after what I've seen, I do think that while I don't think it's going to be the best thing in television history, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I totally believe the hype in that aspect. I do genuinely think I do genuinely believe that they believe this is going to be the best season of the show. And given that the show has constantly just been going uphill, ever since its first episode, I'm excited to see where they go and how they can up themselves after that previous season.
Yeah, man. And if anything, it does kind of bum me out at the realization that this will be sort of the final season when it has still all that kind of momentum behind it. But I do think fans should definitely get excited for the final 10 episodes here of Superman and Lois, because it looks like it's going to be pretty impressive, to certainly say the least. So, yeah, man, I got to catch up. I got to catch up for sure.
You do.
There's a lot I got to catch up to. But yeah, I definitely want to catch up to this before the season ends.
What was the last episode that you watched? Do you remember?
Fuck if I remember, bro. It definitely was the second season. It definitely was the second season. I just can't remember where we left off at, to be quite frank with you. I don't think we finished the season. I think we were pretty close to finishing the season off. But it was one that me and my girlfriend really enjoyed. I just think we wind up getting bogged down with so many other things that it just kind of fell off of our radar, unfortunately. So I definitely need to go ahead and revisit this, because I would like to watch these episodes live when they wind up dropping for the final season, honestly, especially with there only being 10 episodes left. But a lot of momentum, man. If you guys are upset that you've had to wait so long, I do think that the wait will certainly pay off. But while this is a bright side to things, Stuart, there is another side to Superman and Lois coming to an end that, for me, I think of as fans of what DC television has managed to do with some of these characters, the fine balance of television and these characters in movies, I think, continue to kind of be a little bit of a hindrance. And I think this next article here that really gives us an insight as to why we're possibly not getting any more Superman and Lois after this season, I think is continuing to be a little bit eye-opening. But this article, and I don't know if you had the opportunity to read this one yet, Stuart, this is from The Wrap. We posted this up on our Facebook page also.
I haven't read it, but I think I have a good idea where this article is going.
So this is the CW's new bosses talking about really how they're planning on shaping the CW. So if you are interested in checking out their vision, again, this is currently up on our Facebook page, but there are a couple things in here that I definitely think deserve to be highlighted. So, and again, this is all in regards to Superman Legacy, but it says Superman and Lois. It says, we went to our partners at CBS and Warner Brothers, and we just were like, we're partners on these things. You sell them randomly around. Here's our economics. We can't keep losing the amount of money we were on the shows. Very collaboratively, everyone got together and pushed these 4 shows forward. He says Schwartz noted that these 4 series continue to perform from a ratings perspective and at their costs, their current costs. He says there's no reason why we couldn't keep doing them. Schwartz clarified that despite how well Superman and Lois has performed, the decision to end the DC property came from Warner Brothers. They don't want a competing Superman product in the marketplace, Schwartz says, referring to James Gunn's 2025 movie Superman Legacy. The slashing of the network's pre-Next Star slate left a haunting question. What do you schedule to fill a coveted primetime spot on broadcast television? So, very eye-opening, Stuart. This is still Warner Brothers mentality that they had way back in the day when the Arrowverse started, right? I
Mhm.
mean, we
I mean,
had
before that, this
even
all started with Christopher Nolan.
right,
Because
right.
he didn't want the Batman cartoon series to use any villains that he was going to be using in his Batman trilogy.
Oh, wow.
So it started with the first movie was Scarecrow. During the making of the first Batman Begins movie, the Batman was never allowed to use the Scarecrow. And then same with the Joker during the making of the Dark Knight. They weren't allowed to use the Joker anymore, even though he had already been established in the cartoon. And this it started with that, and then it became like a thing where the Batman and then the Justice League cartoon series weren't allowed to, with the exception of Batman, they weren't allowed to use any characters. And then same with Teen Titans. There's a reason Robin never showed up in Justice League, or Robin only showed up in
Mm.
the Batman after Teen Titans had ended. So it's just, this has been, I don't know, I just don't get this. It's like, if it's clearly a different universe, let them use whatever characters they want.
Yeah, it really ruffles my feathers, man. I mean, they did this with Suicide Squad and the
Mhm.
Arrowverse too.
They made
Just
them kill off characters in Arrow, even though Arrow established a Suicide Squad, or at least hinted at it before the movie was even announced.
And so, if people thought maybe Superman and Lois was being canceled because of the idea that maybe the budget is too high, he says, look, at its current cost, there's no reason why we couldn't keep doing them. And it says that the decision ended up, the DC property came from Warner Brothers. They don't want a competing Superman product in the marketplace. And to me, I just think I just think you're just doing a detriment. Like you literally have a series that is like blossoming and just continuing to improve time after time after time. This just feels like they're just undercutting themselves from any level of profit, any other future exposure of Superman. I mean, look, and again, it's maybe one of those things like maybe the Flash had to end before the Flash movie wind up dropping. I don't know if that's how they planned it or whatever the case may be, but maybe they were worried in the idea of like, hey, we cast this Flash. People love Grant Gustin as the Flash. There's just going to be 2 tribes of people constantly clashing against each other. This is our Flash. That's not our Flash sort of mentality. But to me, that's just, I just, one, it's childish, but
Mhm.
2, I think as a consumer, I think we can wrap our heads around the idea that there's a TV side of things and there's a movie side of things. And I just think this idea of like, you can't have this movie thing, you can't have this TV thing if we've got a similar movie thing going on. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Um, I guess maybe they probably put a lot more stock in how well the movie performs. I mean, granted, based off of the direction that the DCEU has been over the years, they probably want a lot more attention and focus to be on Superman Legacy and really establishing that. Because I think at the end of the day, that is going to be their money maker, right? So, like, maybe from a business perspective, I can understand that, but I just don't for me, I would also think that you would want to be able to manage your risk by allowing that same character to be elsewhere, on television or in video games. Because what, are we not going to get any Superman character in any video game in the future because we've got Superman Legacy sort of mentality? I just think you're doing yourself a disservice of allowing more profit not to come your way when you have people that clearly tune into Superman and Lois on a regular basis and absolutely love this show. But I guess maybe the idea of competing, it's like, maybe if we've got Superman Legacy, there will be Superman and Lois, there will be a group of people that are so beholden to Tyler as their Superman that they're just not going to go and see Superman Legacy at all. And I just don't think that's the case. But
No.
at least not enough to like ruin your box office budget, or ruin your box office that you wind up getting out of it. But how do you feel, Stuart?
The only people that are going to have that mentality of, no, it's not my Superman, so I don't want to see this, are the hardcore. And I mean hardcore, so not to say any Henry Cavill fan, but I mean like the hardcore Snyder only fans. And guess what? Having another Superman show isn't going to increase that number or anything like that. Those are the only people that are going to boycott this movie, I think. I don't think anyone who likes Superman and Lois is going to boycott Superman Legacy. So to have that being the reason for the show ending, I think is dumb. Now, I am like saying all this, like I am really annoyed that this is still a thing, but I will also say that I'm okay with the show ending because, for one, as long as the writers know that it's ending, so they have time to like actually write a proper conclusion for that, that's great. And then the other thing, of course, being that even great shows, Arrow, for example, like pretty much almost any CW. The Flash is the best example. They start out great, but then the longer they go, they do start to kind of lose what we loved about them to begin with. And there's a part of me that's relieved that we won't have to see that with Superman and Lois. Like, even if Superman and Lois season 4 isn't good, even if it's a bad season, the good will still have outweighed the bad, and we don't have to see the show constantly trying to run on fumes while trying to figure out how to, what to change about it, how to grab new audiences, but then in doing so, constantly making the show worse and worse. We don't have to worry about it turning into The Flash or Smallville or Arrow. We can just at least, focus on the fact that it's ending on a good note. So there is that to it. But I don't like the reason for it ending. If it is because of Warner Brothers, if it is because they don't want two Supermans going on at the same time, I think that's a really dumb reason. And I think, if anything, the only thing Superman and Lois will do is get people more hyped about Superman Legacy. Because we're going to, fans like me are going to look at this and go, wow, this is what they can do on the small screen. Just imagine what they're going to be able to do with a, Hollywood budget with this character. The other thing, too, is that Superman and Lois gives DC writers an opportunity to tell a type of Superman story that just wouldn't work in a movie. I love Superman and Lois, but if you try to take that exact story, not the plot could work in a movie totally, but if you try to take the story of Superman and Lois, which is the family aspect of it, and you try to make a whole movie around that, audiences are going to be bored. It works as a TV show. It would not work as well as a movie. And I can guarantee you, whatever they do with Superman Legacy, it's going to be great, but would probably never have worked as a TV show. So I think that, you could have had your cake and eaten it too if you kept both going on at the same time, personally. I don't think it's going to I don't think keeping that show going would affect the box office at all, personally. But, it's a weird decision. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's two totally different stories in place here. One from the television show and one from the movies. But I would agree with you. I do think that there is something cool about the idea, like if this show has to end, the idea of it really ending on top. Because you're right, it is brutal sometimes to watch a show that you absolutely love, and then each season it just gets worse and worse, and you're like, man, and you want to get your hopes up for the next season, and then it doesn't deliver for you, type of thing. So there is something impactful about the idea of kind of going out on top. But I do think that this will certainly rub some people the wrong way, maybe not like the idea of this. But look, if you want to blame anybody, blame David Zaslav for this decision. But yeah, I do think that both of these these certainly could have worked concurrently. But yeah, man, just a little. It's just it just stings a little bit knowing that despite how successful this show is, they still have this mentality of like, nope, we can't have the same character in two different places. It personally doesn't make any sense to me personally. I think you have your cake and eat it too, but they just clearly want their they just want their cake.
Yeah, they just want to have the cake to look at
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in regards to Superman and Lois. Sounds like season 4 is going to blow you away. So get those tissue box ready for sure.
Mhm.
And with that out of the way, let's move on to our next topic. Stuart, we talked a little bit already about this in the honorable mentions of Godzilla. Well, we're going to get a little bit further into Godzilla X Kong, the new empire. I mean, look, if the director of Godzilla minus one talked about the idea of like when it comes to kaiju versus kaiju, you're normally just going to get a massive spectacle on the screen. This is that massive spectacle that we're about to get, y'all. As we wind up getting not only a brand new exclusive image from Empire in here, but this week's store, we also got ourselves a brand new trailer. Did you happen to by any chance to check out the trailer that we wind up getting?
I did indeed.
I gotta say, when it comes to the trailer for Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire, you know, we had the opportunity to talk about the teaser trailer that wind up dropping. And I think we both at least felt some type of way about it just based off of the idea that we had just come off of Godzilla minus one and seeing that in theaters like a week prior to this. And for me, at least, the teaser trailer didn't really do too much for me. I was just like, okay, I mean, it just looks like a giant special effects, galore type of thing. But I got to tell you, Stuart, this official trailer that we wind up getting, this almost comes clocked in almost like 3 minutes long. I was a big fan of this trailer. I don't know if the time I've had away from Godzilla minus one, I'm like, I'm ready to see these two just beat somebody's ass on the big screen. But the special effects continue to blow me away in regards to this. I like the idea that we are getting at least a little bit more of the story here. It was pretty cool to have the narrator kind of talk about the idea of like the Titans were protectors of like nature, and the giant apes were like protector of human civilization, which really links up. I mean, if you think about Godzilla and stuff, and or I should say King Kong, the first King Kong, and him with Jane and stuff, and being very protective of her, sort of thing. I kind of really like that balance. And now that there's a new threat, now you've got both of these characters very fearful, but clearly realizing, look, we gotta work together, bro, if we're gonna go ahead and bring this down. And I think this trailer at least did a really good job of showcasing us the threat that we're going to be getting, and also the idea of like human civilization has definitely come a little bit further since the last time that we saw them. With the new technology that they have, clearly they can go to and from Hollow Earth whenever they certainly need to. I think that's pretty badass to kind of see them going through this warp hole, if you will, down into the center of the Earth, sort of thing. So, the action looked incredible in here. Homeboy literally used his, I don't know what his whiplash or whatever, ripped off a building and chucked it at King Kong, and he used his like new gauntlet to destroy the. I mean, this thing just blew me away, and it made me feel like, while look, I am not expecting a lot of human emotion in this film. I am expecting a big bombastic fight sequence. I'm kind of salivating a little bit for that, but there does seem to be at least another underlining story here with like the little girl that can sense dangers coming. She clearly seems to be having visions or might be connected to some sort of like ancient civilization sort of thing. There is something that definitely is appeasing to me there. I don't think it's going to be as emotional as something like a Godzilla minus one, but it might just be just enough for me to be able to really enjoy this as sort of a complete special effects sort of bombastic level film that I'm kind of here for. So I think the official trailer did much more for me than the teaser trailer. But what did you think about the trailer overall, Stuart?
Yeah, I mean, This is a movie you're going to get exactly what you think you're going to get out of it. It looks like it's going to be just a fun. I love how it's being described now as a buddy cop dynamic, which makes total sense between the two of them because, the two of them clearly didn't get along at the end of the previous movie, but they did put aside their differences in order to take down, the main villain Mechagodzilla. So I see that, happening again, just maybe a little bit earlier on is when they start working together hesitantly. And I'm very curious how that's going to work with them not being able to talk, not having, the usual banter that you would hear in a buddy cop kind of dynamic like that. And I'm curious how much of it is going to be like them, like kind of like growling and roaring at each other, like threatening to hit, like, I'll do it, and without actually like throwing a punch, that kind of stuff. I'm curious how the humans are going to try to keep them from, I'm wondering if it is going to be the humans that have to constantly keep them from fighting each other and how they're going to accomplish such a thing. The other big thing, of course, is we know that the two of them, whatever they're fighting, it's something that they're both going to have to work together to stop. So I am curious what monster we have in mind for the two of them. If this is going to be an original monster, or if they have one more Toho exclusive monster up their sleeve that they've been saving for this. And I think the only one that can really, the only one that they haven't used that could really be like a challenge, I think, for the two of them together, Destroya, or I guess as some people like to pronounce it, Destroya. But yeah, like I do think I'm going to have a lot of fun watching this movie, but it also kind of seems like it'll be like Godzilla versus Kong, where it's a great first watch. You get some great fight. It's the perfect popcorn movie. But the moment you start to think about it, you'll be like, oh God, this movie is so dumb.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely seems to be a hint of another threat out there. I don't know if it's just the big ape that these two have to face off against, but it does feel like they are hiding something from these trailers of another reveal that might come out of this. And I do love the idea of you mentioning, like, how are they going to communicate here? Because when I look at this picture, I'm just thinking like they're one's roaring, one's growling at the other, and like they somehow understand each other for all I know. And that's what I get from here, or they just beat somebody's ass and they're like both cheering in victory. I've got no idea. But let's dive into the article a little bit because it does highlight the concept of the buddy cop aspect. That when they mentioned the buddy cop aspect, I'm not gonna lie, I definitely rolled my eyes like, what a buddy cop movie. Like who's Danny Glover and who's Mel Gibson in this scenario? But let's dive into this. But as the filmmaker tells Empire, Skull's Island's finest and the nuclear-powered lizard aren't exactly the best friends. He says there's a bit of a truce. Godzilla's in control of the surface world, and Kong is down in Hollow Earth. He says it wasn't okay. Give me a call when something's going wrong. Godzilla will rush to the rescue sort of mentality. He says, but when the threat of a new simian villain, Scar King, looms, an alliance is necessary, bringing together a mismatched duo on an epic scale. He says the buddy cop dysfunctional relationship dynamic is probably the best one to describe Godzilla and Kong. He also is noting Lethal Weapon as one of his favorites in the genre. He says, my influence was always embedded with the 80s, and the 80s were prime for that storyline. Perhaps for all the crossed wires that you expect, just with two cantankerous creatures who can't actually speak. He says there's a lot of misunderstandings. The way that the monsters communicate isn't necessarily straightforward. He also says, as well as working together, both Godzilla and Kong are facing their own evolutions this time. With big stakes for Kong, there's a personal journey that Kong's going through, and a literal pink glowing glow up for Godzilla. He says this is his version of a training routine. He says of the big lizard's transformation. I'm really big into Shaw Brothers martial arts. Those films are always about here's a big threat, and you have to do all these things to pump yourself up so that you can take on the bigger threat. He says, get ready for a monster load of bang for your buck. You're going to see a lot of different versions of Godzilla in this movie. So that definitely explains a little bit more about why we see a blue glowing Godzilla in here and a pink glowing Godzilla. It seems very much like there's going to be, look, I read this and I just thought to myself, please, like, as much as you are pulling from the 80s, I just don't know if I need like a Eye of the Tiger Godzilla training montage in this. Okay, like I don't want to see King Kong in the background rooting him on. Seeing Godzilla, going through all these different like obstacle courses and stuff with the Eye of the Tiger playing in the background. As long as it's not that on the nose, I'm cool with it, man. Because there is something to the idea of like having a level up to be able to take on your biggest threat. So as long as it doesn't get too cheesy and even more over the top than it already is, I'm cool with that. I'm not gonna lie, the '80s references do worry me just a little bit, but yeah, Stuart, that's how I feel about it.
Immediately, like, when it came to the whole Godzilla training, I just in my mind I picture Kong and Godzilla working out to the montage from Rocky 4, where we cut from one to the other, just like with Sylvester Stallone and Dolph Lundgren. One of them has the superior gym, but the other one is making do with what they have.
Yeah, just no running along on the beach in some race, these small little shorts racing each other, just no beach racing scenes, and I'm perfectly okay. Just
Kong, climbing to the top of the mountain and then putting his arms up in the air while there's like a camera doing like the 360 angle.
That's my nightmare. That's my biggest fear of this. I mean, not that this franchise hasn't already jumped the shark, but all the '80 references are definitely worrying me just a little bit. But we'll see how this comes together. Again, the trailer definitely impressed me. So I'm definitely here. I definitely know what I'm gonna get my money for. And so I'm kind of here of it. Fresh off of Godzilla -1. Yeah, give me a big bombastic film on screen. I'll take that for sure. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts when it comes to Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. How do you feel about the idea of a buddy cop dynamic? Do you think it's going to be jumping the shark a little bit with how they communicate or train with each other, or has the trailer itself certainly sold you guys? We definitely want to know your thoughts in the comment section box below. With that out of the way, let's take a little bit of an intermission, see what some of you guys are saying here. Tony Robinson, he says, I feel the new owners of CW wants to move away from superhero content. I mean, maybe with the direction that they're kind of going. I haven't read the full article, but the article does break down a little bit more as to like what their plans are for the CW. I personally haven't read it though, but they seemed willing to keep it around, honestly.
Which really surprises me, because when they bought the CW, and I haven't read this current article, so I really should before I jump to conclusions, but what I had heard, was that their plan was to slowly take out all the scripted television shows in order to replace it with mostly reruns and just really easy to produce reality game shows, that kind of thing, in order to make it into a network that only gets profit, basically. So the cheaper, the product they produce, the more profit they get from ad revenue, because, yes, I do get it that what the CW was before, back when television networks were like, what they were back then, because now everyone's just streaming. I get that it doesn't make them as much money in the long run as it used to, so I get that. But at the same time, if you don't want to own a network that plays television shows, specifically scripted television shows, and you instead would like to own a network that just does reruns and reality shows, maybe purchase a different network next time. Don't purchase a show, don't purchase a network that people will actually have attachment to then just to completely change it from the ground up so it's not the same network. Because I don't know, to me that's just incredibly inconsiderate. And it's like, I can't imagine like the profit margin that they're making is that big, especially with how much money they had to have lost to not only buy the network, but also changing a network costs a lot of money too. So it's going to be interesting to see if this actually pays off for them. Because for me personally, while maybe they may make some money in the long run towards the very end, I don't think it's going to be enough to like justify, all the changes and, the original purchase that they even made to begin with.
Yeah, no, you might be onto something there. But yeah, we definitely have to read that article for the CW a little bit more and get a better understanding of the direction in which they're going. Marcelino says, you choose to talk about Godzilla versus Kong, yet you didn't pick Rings of Power Season 2 news, Gladiator 2, Spider-Man Noir Silk, or Star Trek Discovery final season. I guess to each their own. Yeah, I mean, pretty much to each their own.
And then for
Um,
Spider-Man Noir and Silk, those are like currently just rumors at the moment. Nothing's been like concrete about the two of them, from what I understand.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I didn't include them here in today's episode. One, the news literally just released like yesterday about this, and the source of their information is from a website called the Ankler. Now, I'm not really familiar with the Ankler. I don't know if you've heard any news from the Ankler before, so I'm not familiar with how reliable of a source the Ankler is. And with Spider-Man Noir, we did have some contradictory news originally about the idea that this was supposed to be taking place in its own universe, that the person under the mask was not going to be Peter Parker. So the fact that this information about Silk comes out right after the debacle that is Madam Web for some people, Nicolas Cage jumping on board Spider Noir, it just seems to contradict a little bit of everything. So I wanted to sit on it for a while, wait
Mm.
for more news to come out before to have some further clarification as to how accurate is some of this information. So again, the source that it comes from, the Ankler, I personally have never heard of the website before, so I don't know how good or reliable the source is, but I would like to wait a little bit longer for more information to come out about it before we focus on it. So that's one of the reasons. Star Trek Discovery, I think it's just an announcement date for the idea of final season. I usually like to try and pick articles or news topics that have a I don't want to say a meatiness to it, but have something we can kind of really sink our teeth into in regards to like what the producer or the executive producer or director is kind of talking about, especially if there's a new trailer that drops about it. I kind of want to talk about it. So it really has to deal with how heavy of the news information do does that rely for us and allow for us to be able to have a fluid discussion about. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't pick some of those topics. But maybe I should have you produce the show one day, Marcelino, and pick some of the topics for us throughout the week.
The other thing too with Discovery ending is that yes, Discovery is ending, but we still have that spin-off show or spin-off movie, I should say, coming out with Section 31 with Michelle Yeoh. So really looking forward to that.
And I think maybe if we covered Star Trek Discovery a little bit more on a consistent basis, then maybe I would have brought it up. I was thinking about putting it into the honorable mentions real quick, or at least posting the poster for it, but I just didn't, unfortunately, Marcelino. But yeah, to each their own, man. It's just but that's usually how I pick out some of the topics throughout the week. With that out of the way, y'all, let's go ahead and dive into our next topic. One I'm always excited about because this movie has really had the most difficult time in regards to getting up off the ground. And that particular franchise is Masters of the Universe. I'm a big He-Man fan. I was certainly back growing up as a kid. The Kevin Smith stuff on Netflix, I think for the most part, has been doing relatively well. They just recently released Masters of the Universe Revolutions, if I'm not mistaken, just recently. So the animated front, Masters of the Universe is doing great. But when it comes to live action, on the other hand, this has been one franchise that has found difficulty after difficulty, just constantly getting in the way. But Stuart, this is probably the most positive I have felt about Masters of the Universe in a really long time, as we may finally have ourselves a director attached to this. I mean, we have people attached, then leaving. I think at one point we had a He-Man actually cast, and then he left, and then somebody else cast. I don't even know if that guy's still on board for this He-Man movie or not, or if the director's going to be like, I got somebody else in mind. So who knows? But having a director possibly attached to this is a great sort of step forward for us. And we're going to go ahead and talk about it for you guys here today because there may be some momentum happening. This comes to us from deadline.com. Director Travis Knight circling the new Masters of the Universe movie. For those of you who do not recall, Travis Knight helped bring forth the brand new Bumblebee movie that got rave reviews. I think if you were disappointed about the direction that the Transformers franchise at the time was going, Bumblebee really reignited your love for Transformers. I think we've gushed about what Travis Knight has been able to do for Bumblebee. Even carrying that momentum over to Transformers Rise of the Beast, even though I personally was surprised that Travis Knight did not come back after his work on Bumblebee. And in fact, surprisingly, I don't even know if Travis Knight has had another directorial job after Bumblebee. He's most notably known for the animated Kubo and the who's that? Kubo and the Two Strings, I believe. And then along with his work here on Bumblebee. And now it seems as though he is circling possibly being the director for Masters of the Universe. But let's go ahead and really dive into this article here, Stuart, because I do think it's got some interesting details. Says the long in development Masters of the Universe reimagining from Mattel looks to be gaining some momentum, as sources tell Deadline that Travis Knight is in final negotiations to direct. So it's not set in stone, but they seem pretty confident that we may be having ink to paper pretty soon. Insiders say his deal has not closed and that other elements on the project are still coming together, but all signs are pointing to Travis Knight being the top choice. Chris Butler will rewrite the script from an initial draft written by David Callahan. Amazon MG Studios is in final negotiations for the rights for the project. And I think Chris Butler and Travis Knight have worked together in the past, if I'm not mistaken. It says Knight is the president and CEO of Leica, the Portland-based animation studio, best known for his stop-motion films like Coraline and Missing Link. Although his focus has still been on animation in recent years, he helmed the 2016 Kubo and the Two Strings. Knight made his a first big splash in live action arena with Transformers spinoff Bumblebee in 2018, but the pick not only received some of the best reviews of the franchise, but Knight delivered a film under the typical budget of a Transformers pick, something every major studio took notice of. Given his unique skill set of working in both animation and live action worlds, studio executives have viewed him as the top Masters of the Universe choice for some time, with sources saying Knight was the listen to this, he was the only director to give an in-person presentation. He says that happened last week and ultimately sealed the deal of him getting the offer. Says there's only been one live action Masters of the Universe movie back in 1986 starring Dolph Lundgren. And Stuart, that immediately jumps out to me. The fact that Travis Knight, out of everybody that they might have looked at or brought in to talk about this film or give an idea of like, what is your vision for this movie? The fact that Travis Knight had a freaking presentation, well, like Excel spreadsheets, probably some animation. He probably already kind of storyboard stuff he put together, PowerPoint presentation. Like, I mean, the man clearly put in the work to go ahead and really get this job done. And I think that just speaks wonders of how serious that he probably really wants this role. I personally love the idea that they bring up here just his abilities when it comes to animation. And I've said this before about Travis Knight. Anytime I gush about what he did when it comes to Bumblebee, he very much reminds me of a Dave Filoni in the sense that somebody that has spent a lot of their career in animation, coming to live action, you already have a vision and an eye for things that you want to be able to see, especially when it comes to animation, especially if you have that creative of a mind that in animated form, the shots, the great cinematography, the angles and everything that you already want to see, to be able to then bring that same mentality to live action, I think really gives you sort of an upper hand in that. And so the fact that he was able to give us a Cybertron on Bumblebee in all animation, but then still give us a very great stylized and impactful and action, I don't want to say action filled, because Bumblebee was very much a human story too, with the humans connecting with Bumblebee, but being able to have that great balance of visuals and storytelling at the same time. If there was any worry about Travis Knight when it came to Bumblebee, was the idea of like, this is his first time kind of doing live action, right? But visually, I think he can really bring what he wants to see to the big screen. And with him knocking Bumblebee out of the park, him doing that under the budget, like the article says, really kind of caught people's eye. I think when you got to bring a world like Eternia to life, and you got to bring a Prince Adam to life and a Battle Cat and him transforming into He-Man. I think with somebody for an eye for animation, I think you could probably do some amazing things in live action. And I'm not expecting this to be a reboot of the 1987 film. I don't think that this is a idea of He-Man coming to Earth sort of thing. I think this is definitely set to go ahead and take place on Eternia. And when you got somebody like Travis Knight that has that sort of eye for these fantastical worlds and still being able to bring great emotional balance to these type of things, I think he is a perfect director for Masters of the Universe. So ink that deal, buddy. Because if there's anybody I think that can finally make this happen, I think it's Travis Knight on a great budget too for Mattel, and hopefully bank from this. I think it will come down clearly to what the script is going to call for. But if I'm not mistaken, I do believe him and this the writer maybe have worked together in the past, so they may know each other's styles. But this excites me. I don't think I've been more excited for a shakeup or new direction that Masters of the Universe is going to go into until this news. So I'm absolutely pumped for this, man. But what about you, Stuart? How do you feel about the idea of Travis Knight? Are you worried about it? Do you think what he did with Bumblebee impressed you enough to tackle this? Do you still have some questions? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, everything I'm hearing so far sounds very good. I'm hoping they actually go through with it this time, because like you said, man, I swear on this show, if we had like $1 for every time we talked about news about a Masters of the Universe movie, the two of us would be fucking rich right now. With how many times we've talked about a Master of the Universe movie in development, and then for it to not be in development anymore, they cast a new actor to play him. Oh, never mind, he's not playing He-Man anymore. I hope this one is actually legit, especially like hearing that this guy, it sounds like he really wants to direct this movie, because the fact that he actually went out of his way to bring in a full-on presentation on how it would look in his vision, I think really goes to show that, if nothing else, there's going to be passion behind this project. And while, yes, there are examples of passion projects turning into disasters, I think in this case, it's worth the gamble. The writer that he's working with has worked with him in the past, but looking at it, with the exception of The Heritage, I don't think I've seen that one. I don't know which one that is, but it's a short film. That's probably why I haven't seen it before. It seems like the writer has only done animated movies in terms of writing. So I am excited to see what he can do with live action. And, looking at Bumblebee, when Travis Knight went to go direct Bumblebee, that was his first movie. No, sorry, second movie, not counting Kubo. It was his first live action movie. And he did that like perfect. The other thing too, like you also mentioned with Bumblebee, this guy clearly knows how to write character growth and character development. Bumblebee was a very character-focused type of movie. There was action in it, and it was fun action, but really the most of the movie was just really focusing on basically the original idea for the first Transformers movie, which was a boy in his car, but in this case, it's a girl in her car. Basically like Iron Giant. So with that kind of writing, and the fact that we've seen Kevin Smith and I totally forgot the showrunner's name, but the showrunner for She-Ra. We've
Yeah.
seen what the two of them could do with characters within that He-Man lore, and how you can have great characters in that universe within that lore. I think there's a lot of potential with this movie, is what I'm basically kind of getting at. There's a lot of potential. And it sounds like there's going to be passion behind this. I hope this is legit. Even if it ends up being a flop, I will be happy that they at least took the gamble on this. I think right now, given all the directors who have come and gone, all the actors who have come and gone, I think if the studio really wants this movie to get made, they will stick with who they have right now, writing and directing this movie. No more changes. Just let them do their thing and then go from there.
Yeah, I think out of all the choices and stuff that we've gotten so far, I do think Travis Knight just lines up really perfectly with like at least how I personally would envision Masters of the Universe kind of coming to life. So I do hope that this kind of comes to fruition. I did, and also, you mentioned the idea of like character growth. There is something fascinating. Like I would like to see how he handles the concept of a Prince Adam, and
Mhm.
having to have this secret of him being He-Man. I guess kind of similar to, I haven't watched the second um Master of the Universe that Kevin Smith has tackled here recently, but he highlights the idea of like, Prince Adam having to really come to a decision, like, do I want to be prince, or as Prince like, do I want to be king as Prince Adam, or do I want to be him as sort of He-Man? You know what I mean? Like, just that internal struggle, that's something that he certainly might have to face when it comes to his own personal kingdom. But with him and the writer having worked with each other in the past, I think the writer has done great stuff. I've really enjoyed what I have seen of him. I do think that they probably can pick each other's brains, know exactly what each other's vision is, and hopefully can kind of bring this to life. So we'll see how this goes, but I think this is the best case scenario that we've gotten right now for a Masters of the Universe movie. But yeah, this is definitely a guilty pleasure of mine because I've been waiting for a damn movie for the longest time, and I feel like when you've got the She-Ra series doing as good as it has, Masters of the Universe clearly coming back for more on Netflix, sort of thing. It does feel like there's a little bit of a momentum building here, and I also want to point out, I think Mattel is in a really good spot right now after what they were able to do with Barbie. I'm not expecting this to be like a, society, societal message sort of driven film when it comes to Masters of the Universe. But I do think that maybe they have an idea of like, how do we want to transform these IPs that we've held on to for so long and make them more impactful for more modern day? They've got a Barney movie that's coming out too from Daniel Kaluuya, which I think people are like, Barney, who wants to see a Barney movie? But
See,
we've
I actually do know where they could go with Barney. Did you ever see the Winnie the Pooh movie, Christopher Robin,
No,
with
I didn't,
Ewan
with Ewan
McGregor?
McGregor, right? No, I missed
Yeah.
that one.
Make that movie again, but with Barney, and you got a good one right there, and it would work perfect, like if they did that.
I mean, they've already boasted about their Barney film, and the idea of the direction that they kind of want to go, and it sounds very appealing to me, honestly. And so I do think that there is a level of momentum that you have on your side right now, where you can probably do some really great things with these characters. And I think, hopefully they're on the high right now of Barbie, and they're looking at their IP and thinking, we got something really great here
Mhm.
with Masters of the Universe. So I'm hoping that they keep that momentum, but. Guys, I want to know your thoughts. Travis Knight, most notably known from Kubo and the Two Strings and Bumblebee, possibly set to be the director for Masters of the Universe. How do you feel about it? Do you think his vision will certainly finally bring this movie to the big screen? Certainly go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below.
That said, though, I know that Mattel was originally kind of saying, "Oh yeah, we would love to open up a cinematic universe," and I really hope, if they want their movies to be connected in the same world, that's totally fine. But I really hope that doesn't mean every movie is going to be like Barbie. Like, so in other words, I hope this He-Man movie isn't a movie about him discovering he's just a character made to sell toys and then going to Earth and then trying to discover himself.
Learning
If
that he's
that's
enough.
Yeah, exactly. If they do that with this movie, I'm going to be very, very disappointed because you know what? That was great for Barbie and I could see it working for other products, but I don't want that with He-Man. With
Yeah.
He-Man, I want space barbarians fighting a skeleton wizard. All right. That's what I came to see with He-Man.
Yeah.
You can have character dynamic. You can have growth. You can have great metaphors that reflect today's society. But give me space Vikings fighting skeleton wizards.
Yeah, I don't need He-Man on Earth. I don't need He-Man on present day Earth. So we'll see how this goes though. But
Yeah.
Travis Knight doesn't rub me as the guy that's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. But who knows? It's Mattel, right? They might have their own vision. We'll see.
He will indeed.
Um Blossom, he says, I sure didn't know they made a movie for He-Man. Yeah, back in 1987, starring Dolph Lundgren and Courtney Cox, if I'm not mistaken.
It's not a good movie, but it's worth watching.
Yeah, it's worth watching.
Yeah.
I can't remember a guy that played Skeletor either. He did a phenomenal job too. I love Skeletor in that film. He's a famous actor too, and I can't remember his name. Geez, oh Molly, I sure hope Travis Knight knows what he's doing with this. I hope so too. If you haven't checked out his work in Kubo and the Two Strings, if you love animation, check that out. And if you want to check out, if you haven't checked out Transformers Bumblebee, check that out also to get a better idea of what Travis Knight might bring to Masters of the Universe. With that out of the way, Stuart, let's go ahead and dive into another topic here. This was an article that wound up dropping very early in the week here. I'm especially fresh off of the brand new trailer that we wind up getting at the Super Bowl for this movie. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is back in the news. One of the lead actor that's playing the character Noah in here, I believe his name is Owen Teague. He had the opportunity to sit down with comicbook.com this week and give us a little bit more insight in regards to this film. And honestly, the more and more that I see of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, you guys know already, especially if you watched our most anticipated movies for 2024, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes came in at like number 4 or number 3 or maybe even number 2 for me. I can't remember, but it definitely is on my list. And the more and more I see of this movie, the more I get excited for it, honestly. And so fresh off of the Super Bowl trailer, we've got more insight for you guys. And this comes to us from comicbook.com. Again, they had the opportunity to sit down with him. It says he explains what sets the new film apart from previous installments. It says those 3 films, talking about the was it War of the Planet of the Apes, Rise, and Dawn. It says those 3 films presented more grounded and realistic take on the Planet of the Apes concept compared to the original 1968 films and its sequels from the 1970s. The new Planet of the Apes films also rely on modern motion capture and visual effects technology to create ape characters instead of actors in ape costumes. While that new technology is still used in Kingdom, Teague says the world of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes may look more like the original Planet of the Apes movies. He says one of this most recent string of movies, he says of this most recent string of movies, this is the one that I think is starting to feel more like the originals. We had Rise, Dawn, and War, which are amazing movies, but that's very different feel from the 68 version. And now we're starting to get into what the original was without being a remake or anything even remotely similar to that. But hence, visually, in terms of the world is beginning to look like that, which we haven't seen before with performance capture. We haven't seen the CGI apes, so that's really cool. It also says set 300 years after Caesar's story ended. Kingdom casts Teague as Noah, a young chimpanzee who breaks away from society after a brutal leader takes power. Noah ventures out searching for a better way forward for apes and humans alike. He says, Teague says that the difference in upbringing is central to the difference in Noah and Caesar's characters. He says, Caesar was raised with humans. And so a big part of Caesar's character is dealing with his relationship with humans and his relationships with other apes and how similar the 2 species are. Noah doesn't really have that. He's never met a human before at the beginning of this movie, and so he doesn't really know anything. Caesar goes into his trilogy knowing a lot and knowing more about the human world than the ape world, knowing very little about how to be a chimpanzee. He thinks he's human. Noah is very much a chimpanzee, and while he's fluent in speech and all that kind of stuff, he's still an ape, and he's very sheltered ape. And so I don't know that Caesar had the kind of wonder at the world that Noah had. Noah's primary driving thing is curiosity. I'm shaky on Cornelius's driving motives, but I remember he's a scientist, and I think Noah is more on that spectrum of character traits. So I just thought this was pretty impactful and eye-opening in regards to just really comparing sort of the 2 characters between Caesar and Noah and seeing exactly where they sort of find themselves in sort of like this brand new world, if you will. I do want to come to you first, Stuart, in regards to the differences that he brings up here. You know, he mentions like this is very much going to feel very similar to the time period in which the original Planet of the Apes was in, but we're clearly taking a different route in regards to telling that story, maybe during this time period, if you will. So it feels like a reboot, but yet a fresh take on the original films. And then just the idea of curiosity really being Noah's sort of North Star in here. How do you think something like this is going to play out? And what do you think about what he said?
Um, I think it'll. I think the way it's going to play out, yeah, I do like that. It seems that with us following a curious character, it gives us as an opportunity as an audience to kind of, follow this world the same way he's following it, learning about the world the same way he's learning about it. I think curious characters are always a good way to kind of help introduce a character into a brand new world. Him mentioning that it's going to be a lot more similar to the world of the original Planet of the Apes movies, also definitely a plus to my opinion. We see that world in the original movies from the humans' perspectives, and them not even realizing that they're still on Earth, them believing that they're in a completely different planet altogether. So us like kind of watching this, having a little more history of this world of how it was created than the ape, but still not knowing exactly what this world is like now because we're seeing it 300 years in the future. I think it's a smart way to help us kind of learn about this world as we go forward in the plot of the movie. I think, yeah, it has been a minute since I've seen the original Planet of the Apes, so I'm trying to think of like what like kind of society it was that we might see in live action. And I mean, the only thing I can really think of is that it was really similar to the way humans lived, obviously, just with slightly less advanced technology. And it kind of makes me wonder if we're going to have similar characters that have that interest in humans the same way you had the main ape from the original Planet of the Apes movies, who was super into humans, into studying them and things like that. I am very curious if you're going to have that one ape that discovers, hey, humans and apes have actually share a common ancestor, and at one point humans might have been the dominant species on our planet. I am kind of curious if that's something that these apes are going to be curious about learning and things like that. Yeah, it's really hard for me to say because even with everything we've been given about this movie, I still don't have like a clear idea of what exactly the direction of this movie is going to be in. So, it's really hard for me to say. I can say that from the trailers though, visually it looks pretty good. My favorite look of Planet of the Apes, though, you can all fight me on this because I'm not trying to claim this is a good movie. I'm just claiming that visually it's my favorite looking of all of them. I do love the look of the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes. I do think like that is where the visuals were
Oh,
like perfected, especially with the ape costumes. But
the
that
Mark
being
Wahlberg
said,
one?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, again, not a good movie, but holy crap, those costumes are amazing. So that being said, I think that's, while those are my favorites, I get that nowadays people just really want to stick with CG. So them using CG apes in this world, it's going to be interesting to see what it's going to like look like, how it's going to work with a lot of CG mixing with humans, and seeing like how good the CG dynamic looks there. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to it. I continue to be look. I guess there is a level of curiosity that we still have about what this movie is going to be, similar to what the curiosity that Noah definitely has about what else is out there and sort of in the world. For me personally, I think that's really what draws me to this, is this idea of like there's just so much more mystery in this world that this character has not even glimpsed into yet. Like there's a great shot in the trailer where he's on horseback and he's like looking down, sort of like a train a railroad track that goes into the tunnel, and it's just a level of like curiosity that he has like across his face that makes me just think if he's wondering like what's on the other side of that. Just seeing some of the trailers. You get the opportunity to see the trailer from the Super Bowl by any chance?
I did, yeah.
There was just there's just something really fascinating about the idea of seeing what humans have sort of devolved into, what this new ape is really attempting to do here, and capturing these humans, using them as slaves and things like that. So just to kind of see the role reversal after coming off of the original, I don't want to say the original trilogy, but the more recent trilogy, is just fascinating to me. And I really want to see like what the rest of this world has turned into. Like, are there humans out there that have managed to, after all these years, still escape these apes? Are they all as feral as the ones that we see here, just struggling to survive? Or are there still very small pockets of people that have held on to like their civilization that we haven't even been introduced to yet? So, this plans on being another trilogy, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot of story to definitely be told here. But the curiosity of one ape, maybe eventually picking up the learnings of Caesar and finding some way to bring humans and apes together again. Is that the right decision? Is that not the right decision? Like, would that be the downfall of this ape civilization once again? I think there's a lot of interesting questions that I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing explored here. So, but yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in regards to Planet or Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And with that out of the way, we will wrap up with one last topic, Stuart. Another film that has made my most anticipated movies list. And I do believe we've got Cobra Kai set to go ahead and drop this year as well. So we are getting a double dose of a Karate Kid franchise. We've been waiting for some news. It got to the point to where I was trying to figure out, is this movie even still going to be able to be released in 2024? And the momentum that we have right now, it seems as though they are on track here. We have officially, y'all, our brand new Karate Kid. That's right, Ralph Macchio, Jackie Chan teaming up to go ahead and bring us another Karate Kid film. And according to Hollywood Reporter, American-born Chinese actor Ben Wang winds up nabbing the lead role in the Sony movie. This is an exclusive. For those of you who have had the opportunity to check it out, I believe American Born Chinese is on Disney Plus. I believe it only ran for one season though, and then unfortunately wind up getting canceled. But Ben Wang has officially been cast in the lead role. This comes to us from Hollywood Reporter. It says Sony Pictures has cast Ben Wang, best known as a star of Disney Plus series American Born Chinese, to star in its latest installment of the coming of age martial arts franchise. The casting comes after a global search that saw thousands of submissions from around the world, with 10,000 entries reported in the first 24 hours alone, Stuart. So the casting of this had a ton of people coming in for this role. According to the studio insiders, Wang delivered a standout audition that demonstrated his deep connection to the character. It also helped that he's fluent in Mandarin and highly skilled across many forms of martial arts, including karate, Wing Chun, Kung Fu, Gumdu, King Po, and Taekwondo. Some of those skills were already showcased on American Born Chinese, the well-regarded adaptation of the acclaimed coming-of-age fantasy graphic novel. It also starred Michelle Yeoh. It says the new Karate Kid will have Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio reprising their iconic roles from the Karate Kid films. Plot details are being kept under a bonsai tree, but the new installment will bring the story to the East Coast and focus on a teen from China who finds strength and direction via martial arts and a tough but wise mentor, or maybe two. Jonathan Entwistle, most notably known for award-winning TV dramas "I'm Not Okay with This" and "The End of the Effing World," is directing the feature film as well. So, out of tens of thousands of entries, Ben Wang from American-born Chinese lands the role. Apparently, was a standout amongst a ton of people. Huge martial arts background, fluent in Mandarin also. It seems like this story is going to be taking place on the East Coast, and it feels very much like the classic Karate Kid story, right? Ralph Macchio was from Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. He moved to California, very much a fish out of water. We had Jaden Smith's character coming from the United States to China, if I'm not mistaken. Him being a fish out of water also, and now this kid coming, it looks like, from China to the East Coast also. So yeah, definitely a different environment for him to be in. I think this is great, Stuart. Look, I have not watched American Born Chinese, but if you are asking me to, I think this has convinced me to go ahead and check it out. Can you look and see, has it been canceled already, or is there another season announced? There's something that tells me that it might have been canceled already, honestly.
I'm not seeing anything saying that it's been canceled. I think it
Okay,
was just meant to be a one season
one season
show,
show.
though.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, I was wrong. Sorry, I just found deadline. American Born Chinese canceled by Disney Plus after one season. Okay, so I
I
was wrong. It was canceled.
I mean, I am curious if it's been canceled because of the casting of this. I there might have been other reasons too. I mean, we've heard horror stories as to like why some of these streaming services no longer carry a lot of these series anymore to really kind of like not pay these people. But so I don't know. I don't know what the ratings and things like that were like, but clearly taking that momentum from his series and bringing it over here. But this just further tells me, man, we have the people in place for this to actually happen. I believe it's supposed to be scheduled to drop in December of 2024. Let me just see. Yeah, Sony is slated this film for December 13th of 2024. I love the idea of a fish out of water, and if anything, I will be kind of curious to see how they even come together, like how Jackie Chan even gets onto the West Coast. Ralph Macchio, where's Cobra Kai set at right now, Stuart? That's in California still, I would assume, because they're
Yeah.
the valley. So yeah, how do they end up going back to the East Coast? Is Daniel in town revisiting some people from New Jersey? Like, I'm kind of curious where on the East Coast this is. So to kind of see how this all comes together is really fascinating for me. But congratulations to Ben Wong for landing this role, man. I'm continuing to be more and more pumped for this film with every bit of information that comes out.
Something I find so funny about this. Okay, a couple things. So one, I'm just gonna say this. I really hope this movie doesn't like ignore Cobra Kai. Like I'm not saying I want every character from Cobra Kai to be in this movie. No, I'm just saying that I hope like the events of Cobra Kai are canon to this movie. Let me just first say that. The other thing is I find it funny because there was an interview with Ralph Macchio, and this was way before this movie was announced, though. So I'm sure that time they changed their mind over time because maybe studios had different offers. But when Ralph Macchio was asked about whether or not Jackie Chan would ever make a cameo in Cobra Kai, he said, well, that movie's just not in our universe. He considered that Karate Kid to be in a separate universe from the Cobra Kai, basically, when they wrote it. But given that we talked about this before, the characters have completely different names. They're clearly not the same characters from the Karate Kid movie. There's no reason that these two characters can't be connected in the same universe. And I think that's something that Sony picked up on, even if Ralph Macchio himself doesn't really necessarily agree with that. So I am hoping that this is like kind of they're going to be able to merge the worlds rather than just create a new world where like only one movie is canon from each universe. You know what I mean? I'd rather just see them continue the story as a whole. And again, I'm not saying you have to reference everything from Cobra Kai, but maybe like a shout out here and there. Like maybe mention, I used to be enemies with this guy named Johnny. Now we're friends. I
Mhm.
think you can make a friend out of this enemy or something like that. Something along those lines. I am really excited to see how this does. And I again, I know this is definitely a moment where Sony saw an opportunity because of the popularity of Cobra Kai and knew that they had an
Absolutely.
opportunity to capitalize on it. But that being said, you can do that. You can have a movie being made purely on marketing and have it still be really good. And I hope this is one of those cases where that happens. I really hope, just because this is one of those movies that is clearly made for money from the studios, I'm hoping they attach the right people to write and direct this for this to be another hit. I think from what I hear, now I haven't seen American Born Chinese, but my girlfriend loved that show. She finished I think she watched the entire first season in like one day.
Oh wow.
She's been saying that she really loved the main character in the movie or in the show, and that he was a really good actor. So I do think they chose a solid performer for the new Karate Kid.
So yeah, guys, if you're fascinated in the new Karate Kid, maybe give American Born Chinese an opportunity here and see exactly what Ben Wong is going to go ahead and bring to this series. But I'm agreeing with you. I do think that there's a level of, hey, you know what, Cobra Kai has really been building up this franchise, a lot of positive momentum behind it. If we have a really good Karate Kid script, let's go ahead and bring it to the big screen. So I do hope that they take that opportunity, and hopefully this is something special, y'all. So yeah, piece by piece, the Karate Kid movie is coming together again, slated for December of this year. We'll see if it makes that date, but very much looking forward to this one. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below, especially if you've checked out American Born Chinese. If you have, what did you think about it? Definitely go ahead and certainly let us know. But that will wrap it up for all our main topics today. And Stuart, I think you know what time it is.
Oh yeah.
Now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And we're going to get into you guys' live viewer questions here. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up here. For those of you who want to know, what you got?
Oh, I was just gonna say, is it cool if I dip out for just 30 seconds? I'll be right
Yeah,
back.
go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Awesome.
Go for it. For those of you who are wondering, how do I get a live viewer question up? Pretty simple. All you got to do is go to our YouTube page, as you see right here. Usually Friday or Saturday, we'll go ahead and drop a post. Just click the community tab, as you see right here. And then scroll down and you'll see live viewer questions. And today we've got 7 questions here queued up for us. Let me refresh this page just to make sure I've got everybody. We'll sort this out perfectly. There we go. And let's see what we got here today. We got good old Peg C starting out. The official trailer for X-Men 97 finally dropped 2 days ago. Do you eventually want to see a 1994 Spider-Man animated series make a return? Look, I will wait to see how X-Men 97 does first, but if it does as well as I'm hoping that it would, yeah, give it to me. I'm trying to think if first off, I don't even know if that's rights that Marvel has, or if that would have to be something that Sony Pictures winds up doing. That's a question that I would probably want to know first. I did see somebody on Twitter very similar to how we have this X-Men 97 poster. Let me see if I can pull that poster back up. I did see somebody make up a mock photo of of this same poster, but with Spider-Man. I think it said Spider-Man 98 or something like that. So like for instance, if I pull up this poster again, instead of X-Men 97, it said like Spider-Man 98. I guess maybe picking up from when the series itself wind up ending. So for me, I don't mind it. I would be open to it, but I would need to know more information first. As in, like, is this something that's going to be led by Marvel, or is Sony going to be in charge of it? If it's Sony, look, I've enjoyed what they've done animation wise with the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but I highly doubt it would be like Lord and Miller taking over to do the animation for Spider-Man 98 if that's what they wind up naming it. But so would I like to see it? Maybe. I just a couple other things certainly would need to happen first. Are you excited for release of Zootopia 2 in 2025 and the release of Toy Story 5 in 2026? I don't even think I've even watched Zootopia personally. So I really don't have an opinion on that one, honestly. Um, but as far as Toy Story 5, I don't think I ever saw Toy Story 4. So in regards to where they would take the story, that I don't know, but it's Toy Story. So, there's a level of excitement. I just don't know if it's enough to get me to go to theaters to see it. Maybe it's something I'll watch one day, but I don't really have that much anticipation for it. You also say, have you read this article for Power Rangers Korean series? It lists the Super Sentai series adaptation into Power Rangers. Keep up the good work. This is from Ranger Wiki. He did attach a article to it. Power Rangers Korean series. I don't really see any photos from it though. In 1989, Dai Young Panda produced a South Korean dub of Flashman titled Earth Protector Flashman. It proved popular enough to warrant other Sentai dubs through the 90s, which then transitioned into dubbing for Power Rangers. However, once Disney purchased Power Rangers in the early 2000s, they upped the price for international distribution. After that, the rights of Super Sentai went to Tooniverse, and dubbed both Abba Ranger and Decker Ranger under the same titles. So no, I had never heard of them adapting it into, or at least Korean dubs. It sounds like it wasn't like a series itself, but just more or less dubbed in Korean, if I'm not mistaken. So at least that's the vibe that I'm getting from the article itself.
I do know. Sorry, I wasn't
Oh,
here
go
for
ahead.
the context of the full question, but fun fact: when Power Rangers Lost Galaxy came out, they did make a Japanese dub, and apparently the Japanese dub of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy actually did better in Japan than the actual
Really?
Sentai that it came from.
Nice. That's pretty interesting information. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see here. Who else we got? Marcelino. Recently, season one of Supergirl has received a lot of praise, with many people saying that it's underrated and that it was extremely overhated upon release. Also, when it came to the seasons on CW, that's when the show went downhill because CW didn't know how to make a show like Supergirl work, while CBS knew what they were doing and were making great things before CW took over. Do you share this? I didn't mind season one of Supergirl, but it definitely felt like there was something missing from it. I think there was a part of me that was kind of confused as to why it didn't take place in the same, like, or at least the idea of it being separate. Made me kind of curious as to how they would do crossovers. I think they eventually did do a crossover in season one of Supergirl, right? Didn't they have the Flash come over, if I'm not mistaken, in the
Yeah, that
first
was
season?
yeah, that was in season one.
Yeah. So I did do more research in regards to season one of on CBS, and the executive producers and presidents at the time mentioned the idea that it did well for their CBS. It didn't really have anything to do with ratings, but I think they kind of looked at the idea of moving it over to the CW certainly as like a win-win, because I think at the time they were co-owners of CW. So they personally made the decision to go ahead and move it over to CW, not based off of its ratings or it declining or anything like that. But I guess they felt maybe the proper home for it was certainly going to be CW, and I don't mind the decision of the change. Like, I wouldn't say that it went downhill because it joined the CW. I think the CW at the time had proved with Arrow and the Flash that they were more than capable of handling a great superhero television series. And I think the idea of moving it to Vancouver did it wonders in regards to allowing it to be easier to do crossovers and have cameos, and have Supergirl really pop up in other shows also. So, I don't look at it as it went downhill once it joined CW and it should have been on CBS. I think CBS certainly made their own decision. And to this day, I do think it being in the hands of Mark Guggenheim and Greg Berlanti over on the CW bolstered it more than what it was on CBS. Not to say that it wouldn't have flourished on CBS, because you're right. Up until that time, CBS had some great content, but they just never had a superhero content before, if I'm not mistaken. So, there was some elements of Supergirl season one I probably would have changed and wanted a little bit more of, but I don't think it was terrible. I mean, I'm pretty sure we reviewed it when we were still APlus opinions, if I'm not mistaken. So I definitely enjoyed the series at the time, but I always felt the CW move was still the right one to this day. What about you, Stuart?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the show went downhill until season five. I think, if anything, it actually got better in season two. Season one felt like they were still like kind of in that point where they're trying to figure out what kind of show they really want to be. So to me, I feel like it didn't get its footing until season two. And I know that might be a hot take. If people prefer season one, the one thing season one did have going for it is that I do think that they did a lot more when it came to their exterior shots, especially like they just had more dynamics in terms of like where like locations, and some of their outside shots I think looked a lot better
Yeah,
than they did on the CW. CW, you always see the exact same shots every time they're filming outside. It's always that
that's true.
exact same city block. It's always that exact same quarry. It's always that exact same sound stage just redecorated. So that's the one thing I will give CBS, is that yes, look wise, I think they did a lot more. Although special effects wise, I think it looked better on the CW
CW.
personally.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so too.
So yeah, that's my personal take on the whole thing.
But I'm glad that the season one is getting some love for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely deserves some love for sure. He says, I know Sony is now criticized as the studio of mediocrity, or at least that's how I refer to. I've never heard anybody else call it that besides me. But that's mostly towards Spider-Man projects. But when it comes to other genres like thrillers, comedies, romantic comedies, horror, and some other sci-fi films, they actually do a pretty good job, because Missing, No Hard Feelings, and recent Jumanji films are all made by Sony, and those are pretty great and well-made films. I feel like because Sony's mismanagement of Spider-Man characters, people tend to overlook a lot of those other projects that are actually great. Even if when a film is bad, people don't talk about it unless it's Spider-Man related. And I'm not saying it's wrong to criticize Sony's mismanagement of Spider-Man, but credit should be given when they make good films. I totally agree with you. I've said on this show before, a movie that surprised me, at least, that I don't think it was great, but is definitely a film that I semi enjoyed, was I didn't think Uncharted was too bad. I thought Uncharted was okay as a film. But I'm sure there's plenty of other Sony movies that I've definitely enjoyed, but I just don't talk about them enough. But yeah, we always try and give credit where certainly credit is due around here.
Yeah, I should point out, if I ever said I don't like Sony, what I meant is their Sony Spider-Man movies, specifically the recent ones, because there's a lot of movies that Sony will produce, but they'll be very hands-off with, and those movies will be absolutely, great or terrible sometimes, depending on who they get. The only reason I'm really harsh on Sony with the Spider-Man movies is because most of the decisions made in those movies don't come from the directors they hire or the writers. It comes from the studio itself. And so that's where I think the criticism towards Sony is very fair, for what a lot of people will critique them for. But yeah, if you try to say that Sony never produces good movies, you're just objectively wrong there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even when I did my Madam Web review, I even mentioned the idea, like, while I call it Sony pictures of mediocrity, that's really when it comes to this Spider-Man universe. They're definitely more than capable of making good films.
Yeah.
If Marvel ever decides to do Elseworlds project, what is an Elseworld project you would like to see in the future? I personally have an idea of how they could do a Hulk trilogy and adapt Planet Hulk, World War Hulk, and Immortal Hulk. That would be a pretty good one also. I've been wanting this for a really long time. Give me an Age of Apocalypse Elseworlds project from X-Men. I would love to see what that world would look like, and really give us an idea of being able to see just the X-Men in a completely new light that has not been done on any, on a big screen or anything like that. I can't remember if did they ever tackle Age of Apocalypse in the animated series. I don't think so. I think that might have been before its time or after. I can't remember, honestly. But I still to this day would love to see an Age of Apocalypse project. So give me that as my choice for Elseworlds.
What would I want to see? I do love your idea of the Hulk trilogy, because unfortunately, as much as I love Thor Ragnarok, they've kind of made it so it'd be impossible to do a like both the World War Hulk and a Planet Hulk movie, because they've kind of just scrapped those with the Thor Ragnarok. But man, I think my choice would probably be Deadpool kills the kills the Marvel universe. Like basically that, but with the MCU. Like I would love to see it be like not in the MCU, but using a lot of MCU actors, and have it be an adaptation of Deadpool versus the Marvel universe.
Let's see here. What else we got? Jessica Friedman. This question is for Indy or Stewart. Why was The Legend of Korra taken off Nick's regular scheduled programming and put on nick.com/YouTube? You want to answer that one first? Do you know?
I think I don't know 100%, but I've always assumed it was because of marketing, because as great as they were, as that show was when it came to viewership, I think it's kind of like Young Justice. It just didn't sell toys, and I think that's what Nickelodeon really cared about more than anything, is selling toys. And I think also it was partially because that show was aimed at an older audience, and the people who are watching Legend of Korra, when they watch the advertisement, they're not going to be as enticed to buy whatever their advertisers are selling to them as they would be if it was like little kids watching it, begging their parents for whatever it is they're selling. I think those are like the two main factors. There might be a little bit more to it, but that always did really annoy me, because Legend of Korra, especially during season 3 when they moved it to Nickelodeon.com, was such a great season, and it's too bad that they didn't bother to air it on Nickelodeon. Sorry, last thing, actually, I just realized it also might be because it is like a show where they do show a lot more death, and in one episode, straight up torture. So maybe that was like another thing. It's like they didn't want that like on their network. Like there's literally a scene where someone suffocates to death because they use airbending to literally take the air out of her lungs until she like suffocates to death. And then another scene where they have to like torture Korra in order to not kill her, but get her to enter the avatar state, which is like a defense mechanism that every avatar has. So it might be like scenes like that made them go, oh, we don't want this on the network.
Yeah, possibly. And do you think Marvel should give Sony the rights to Spider-Man again so he can show up in their Spider-Man villain movies? So to clarify, Jessica, it's really Sony that owns the rights for anything Spider-Man related and how Spider-Man is being used. Unfortunately, years ago, Marvel sold off those rights to Sony, and so now Sony owns those rights. I don't know if they have like a quota of how many movies they got to drop within a certain amount of time in order to keep those rights, but it's really Sony that gives Marvel the permission to use Spider-Man in any of their MCU movies. So as far as like, should Marvel give Sony the rights to Spider-Man again so he can show up in other Spider-Man villain movies? I mean, I think that's really the decision up to Sony. I think they have Tom Holland right now occupied in the MCU, so maybe that's why they have not yet utilized him in any of their Spider-Man villain movies. You know, I was always under the impression that Sony was making these films to kind of establish a universe and then eventually bring Tom Holland over. But if I'm Tom Holland, I'm like, I don't want anything to do with that universe right now. And is probably fighting tooth and nail to keep this relationship between Marvel Studios and Sony together in order for him to stay in the MCU. So I just, at this point, it just feels like Sony's making these Spider-Man villain movies just to make them and to continue to kind of keep the rights. And it feels more and more or less like there is a game plan, or that this is all culminating to something behind the scenes, if that makes sense. But make no mistake, it is Sony who has the rights to Spider-Man. They give Marvel the permission to use Spider-Man. And I think, you know, financially, it's such a great team up. You know, Sony probably doesn't want to take Spider-Man back at this point in time, unless you want to introduce maybe Miles in live action. Maybe he'll eventually pop up in that Spider-Man villain movie. Or you bring back Andrew or Toby, which I don't think is happening personally. But what do you think, Stuart? Do you think there's a game plan? Do you think they're still going to try and get Tom Holland to come over to some of these Spider-Man villain movies? Or is this just Sony making movies?
I almost feel like it's very likely he's going to be in the Kraven the Hunter. And I say this because like he was meant to show up in both Venom movies and Morbius, and the only reason he didn't was because Sony was advised by Kevin Feige. Now they could have ignored him, right? Because Kevin Feige has a voice in Sony, he doesn't have power. So they listened to Kevin Feige because he clearly knows what he's doing. Look at the MCU. But now I feel like they might be getting to the point where they're a little bit desperate. And given how poor, not only performance-wise, but also review-wise, Madam Web has gotten, I almost feel like they may start utilizing him more. Whether it's Tom Holland Spider-Man or a different Spider-Man, I do think we are going to see a Spider-Man at the very least in Kraven the Hunter or whatever film comes after that. Venom 3 would be the next one. So I think we're going to see him pretty soon, even if it's not Tom Holland's version of the character. I think whatever plans they had to like build up this universe and wait to introduce Spider-Man are going to be thrown out the window because of the financial failure of Madam Web, and we're going to be seeing him in the Sony universe sooner than later.
We'll see, man. We'll see. I have no idea what they really plan on doing today. So I have no idea.
Indy and I were talking about this when that one week that you weren't available, and apparently there's a bit of a disagreement going on between Sony and Disney at the moment. Sony really wants the next Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man 4, to be basically just like No Way Home,
right?
Yeah, another multiverse. But like Sony doesn't want, or sorry, Marvel wants to stick with the ending of the previous movie and go with a very like not like fully grounded, but they want him to be a street level hero for his fourth movie, have it be kind of more character focused. And I really hope Disney wins this one because I think that'd be a great direction to take. I think we already had the really amazing like event that was No Way Home, but if you try to do that again, it's not going to have the same impact that it had the first time. I think the smart way to go would be to do one more, at least just one street level movie just to experiment, see how it goes. Plus, you don't even have to put in a lot of money for it if it's street level. So even if it doesn't make, even if it's not a banger at the box office, you still make profit, you know?
Yeah, no, I would agree with you there for sure. All right, we'll see how that turns out for them. They definitely need a boost in some way or another. Doomsday, don't you find it crazy how Jason David Frank's apparently last appearance as Tommy in the 25th anniversary also paid tribute to all his Ranger colors? Yeah, almost like a proper send off. You know what I mean? Even though
Mhm.
way before his passing, but that is kind of crazy. During the Forever Red crossover, did you know that Danny Slavin's scenes as Leo was all green screened and he was CGI'd in the episode?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so he was there, but wasn't there at the same time. It honestly makes the episode so much funny when you realize that Danny was acting in front of a green screen. I didn't catch that at all. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can kind of tell when they're all like standing side by side before they morph. You can tell like he is like just photoshopped in there, and that he's like not actually there with the rest of them. Like it's kind of funny. It's like everyone else looks three-dimensional. He clearly is a 2D like PNG image.
Man, I'm gonna have to revisit that again. He says, "Are you skeptical about any of the Fantastic Four cast members? If so, who? Then who? For me, it's Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. I mean, he's a great actor, but I honestly don't see him as Mr. Fantastic. However, since it is official, I'll be hopeful that he blows my mind with his performance. I think we kind of talked about that at the beginning, right, Stuart? Like, if there is anybody that I have questions about, not because I don't think that they could deliver, but just that like my vision for him just doesn't necessarily line up. But again, that's my vision. That's not the vision of what the script is asking for. I have 100% belief that he will absolutely just do great at this role. And I do think he'll definitely bring the type of Reed Richards that they're asking for to life, but it's still like a little bit of a disconnect for me, regardless of how much I know. Like he's great in almost anything that he touches. I mean, even the idea, if you go back and think of him in like 1984 Wonder Woman as Maxwell Lord, over the top, a movie that's certainly forgettable, but I do think that he brings his own level of like just wittiness and craftiness to the role that works for probably what they were asking for. Again, that probably doesn't give people a lot of confidence. Thinking about Wonder Woman 84 again, but I do think he is one of those characters that can really sink their teeth into a role and make the best out of it, even if the script isn't that great.
Mhm. Don't you wish the script for Wonder Woman 84 was better?
Absolutely. But yeah, I think out of all of them, Pedro would be the one in question. But again, that's just me butting my head against the vision that I had for Reed. That's all. Blossom. Did you see the cast for the new Super Sentai yet? I still can't wait. An Orange Ranger sends Q Ranger. Holy macaroni. Pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, I did get the opportunity to check out the trailer for a Boon Boomger that just dropped yesterday. They had their press conference. Got the opportunity to see the cast. I want to watch the trailer a couple more times. I was on tokunation.com reading some of the character descriptions and stuff and seeing the cast members. But yeah, they look great, man. The suits continue to grow on me. I'll probably do an actual Boon Boomger review, if not recorded later tonight, then maybe sometime tomorrow and have it up sometime before Tuesday. Because I do want to talk a little bit more about it, but the suits continue to grow on me, especially after seeing this trailer. I just realized now, Stuart, and I don't know if I had just been glimpsing over this or missing it, but their suits, the back of their suits, they've got two wheels on their shoulder blade areas. Like when they turn around and they fight and I see them swinging, I notice they've got two wheels on their back covering sort of like their shoulder blade area, which was very much hidden from me, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention. But I do think that kind of adds a really great dynamic to the suits that I didn't see before. I do wonder if they've got any level of movement or will come into play as they're sort of fighting. I even really start digging some of like the little one like like shoulder pad sort of armor that black and orange have, along with the weapon designs. So yeah, they're really growing on me, man. And I think even from watching the trailer, one of my biggest concerns out of the teaser trailer was like, is this whole series going to be set in front of a 3D screen, in front of a CGI world, kind of like King Oger was? I really wanted him to have real set locations and stuff. But then watching the trailer itself, I'm like, okay, like, yeah, this feels like Super Sentai again. Like we are getting, actual on-set locations and things like that, characters with a base that they come to. Even the Zord fights look like they're set like very classic person in gigantic monster suit, on like little set design pieces and stuff, not completely all within a CGI world. So it hit all the buttons I was really hoping to see from this new Super Sentai. So I'm pretty pumped from it. From what I've seen, I'm looking forward to this season. What about you?
Ah, man, I didn't
Have you
even
checked it
realize.
out?
No, I didn't even realize there was a teaser out. I'm gonna check it out immediately after this podcast.
Yeah, check it out, man.
Yeah, I really need to watch the previous one because, like, I think I mentioned this before. I really love the suit designs that they had in the last Super Sentai, but I still haven't actually checked it out, and I feel like I really should. I'm so behind on Kamen Rider and Sentai; it's crazy. After the show, could you text me a couple links for like good websites to watch this on? Because I know that you sent me a great one for torrenting, but like I can't remember.
Yeah, no problem. I'll definitely send you one. Let's see here. What else do we have? Remember I told you guys about the Galactic Council? Aside from the first 15 Sentais and Q Ranger, how'd it be if I have some of the Toei's other tokusatsus as some of the officers? Oh, that'd be kind of cool. I would love to see a concept like that using other tokusatsus, besides like just the Sentais and stuff. I think that'd be pretty neat.
I think if you're going
Um,
with officers, she should go with like kind of like the more office like police themed sentais such as like SPD and also like Space Sheriff Gavin, which isn't Sentai, but like the Metal Hero side of
oh
things
yeah.
if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Stick with that theme. Johnny Marrero, have you heard about the new Power Ranger novel that's coming in 2025 from Abraham Books? Huh, I have
Hmm.
not. I'm gonna have to Google that one now. Power Rangers novel 2025. New era of Power Rangers could hopefully. Oh wait, no, not that one. Mysterious Power Ranger book revealed from Deoxy. Maybe I'll have to read that. I'm trying to see if there's an actual article. Um, if you find an actual article on it, let me know. But I think they might have done YouTube videos about it, but I have not heard about it. But I think that's pretty cool. Can
Yeah.
MMPR the return lead to a new ongoing series with new characters from the 4-part issue? I mean, if it sells pretty well, I don't see why not. Now, whether or not you can get Amy Jo Johnson and her boyfriend to come back to write it, that I don't know. But maybe there is a place where you can continue on that story with a new writer and things like that. But I haven't read MMPR The Return yet. Do you think Izzy would have made a great Red Ranger? I think so.
Mhm.
What about you, Stuart? Do you think Izzy could make a great Red Ranger?
Maybe after 2 or 3 more seasons, yeah, definitely. Even after the ends of our end of RPM, I think he had a little ways to go before he really learned how to be a leader. But I
No,
do
I
think
think I
the
think they mean
potential is there.
Izzy from Dino Fury.
My bad. I was thinking of Ziggy. Sorry
Ziggy.
about that.
Mhm.
You're right. Izzy. Yeah, then yeah, I could see Izzy as a Red Ranger as well.
She definitely would be a little bit more temperamental than I would like, but I think she's feisty enough and she's got good leadership skills. Her being an athlete and knowing how to work as part of a team, I think she would be pretty good. I don't know if she would remind me of like, was it Kichiro from the Pat Rangers, like the super hot headed guy? but I think she might be close. She might be close to a leader like that.
Mhm.
Let's see here. And did you find anything about the Power Ranger novel, Stuart, or no?
No, just a YouTube video, I think from Deoxy, talking about a mysterious Power Ranger novel in development. But other than that, so I guess I'd have to check out the video to know what's going on there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out too. Let's see here. Toby, he says, since James Gunn confirmed that there will be an Arkham series and chapter 1, um, what other heroes do you want to see him announced? Is the Arkham series part of chapter 1, or is that an Elseworlds thing under Matt Reeves still that James Gunn confirmed, like, yes, we are doing that?
It is
Maybe.
not Elseworlds. Matt Reeves is a part of it, but it will
Uh-huh.
not be in the Batman universe. According to James Gunn, which this part I'm calling BS on, because I remember when this was announced, they said it was a spinoff of the Batman. They specified the Batman, but when it was
Okay.
announced, yes, it was a spinoff. But James Gunn is claiming that this was always the plan, that it was meant to take place in the DC universe.
Okay, that's good to know.
But I'm
That's good
calling
to know.
BS on him for that.
Let's see here. We also got. Well, yeah. What other heroes do you want to see him announce?
Given that we have an announcement for Batman and Superman, and the closest thing for Wonder Woman is her series, which isn't even going to have her in it because it's all about the mascara. I would love to see him announce a movie that Wonder Woman is going to be in, whether or not it's a Wonder Woman movie or something. I would just love to see them establish an actor for Wonder Woman in the DC universe during Chapter 1, since she is part of the Trinity. I think she is one of the heroes that needs to be, needs to be shown off, early on in the universe, I think.
I would probably, and this is something that's been a rumor lately. Teen Titans. I'm ready for Teen Titans. I
Yeah.
want a Teen Titans movie. We got a series. I would like a fresh taste in my mouth after that. Even though I think that series got better with age for sure. But I'm ready for Teen Titans on the big screen. So give me that.
Mhm.
Could you see Cobra Kai casting making any cameos in the Karate Kid movie? I think you just highlighted that, right, Stuart?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if any of the cast members will actually be in it, but I could see them being referenced. If anything, I think the only one I could totally see that I'm like 90% sure is going to have a cameo, I'm pretty sure we're going to see Johnny at some point.
Ooh, Johnny, yeah. I think that'd be pretty cool. That'd be
Yeah.
pretty neat to have him pop up at least. And then last but not least, last question. What other DC Elseworld films do you guys want to see?
Hmm. I really want, in fact, I actually think, as much as I love the Batman, I think it would have been a little bit better if this was the direction they went in. I would love to see a Batman movie that actually takes place in the 30s slash 40s, basically. What they're doing with Spider-Man Noir, I want to see that with Batman.
Ooh, that'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. Um, give me, and this wasn't necessarily Elseworlds, but I wouldn't mind it being turned into an Elseworld story. I wouldn't mind seeing the Nightfall storyline of Bane breaking Batman's back and having us have John Paul as our Batman with that costume that he had back in the day, getting some sort of live action adaptation. That would be probably one of mine, and then of course just the classic tale of Batman: The Dark Knight. Give me an old grizzle vet. Give me Carrie as the Robin. I wouldn't mind seeing that story brought to life in a better light in DC Elseworld. So those probably be. That's crazy that all three of us are Batmans, but
Yeah.
I think I was gonna say Superman Red Sun also, but there's a lot of Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I probably should even throw in there Kingdom Come. I really want to see a Kingdom Come
Yes.
brought to live action. I remember picking up and this is gonna age me, but I remember picking up the 4 issue miniseries that they had from Mark Waid and Alex Ross, and it really blew me away. So I still would love to see Kingdom Come make it to some sort of Elseworlds show or film or something like that.
It would be great. Okay. If I was doing Kingdom Come, I would do it as a mini series. and I would utilize actors that we've already seen as these characters, but specifically avoid actors being used in both the Batman universe and the DC universe. But I would use actors like maybe Brandon Routh, for example. Maybe have him come back as Superman. Maybe have who's a Batman actor that people would love to see again? Like, I guess Michael Keaton could come back as Batman again because people really liked him in The Flash. So we could see him, but like as an even older version of Bruce Wayne. Basically, just get like a huge mix and mash of different actors that we've already seen playing these characters, but have them do a whole new take on these characters. In fact, I was thinking about this when I actually reread Kingdom Come last year, and I was thinking about how Zachary Levi, I could totally see him doing this version of Shazam very well, where he's being kind of mind controlled by Lex Luthor, so he constantly has a creepy smile on his face. I'm just picturing Zachary Levi doing that creepy smile, saying those exact lines as Shazam from that comic, and I think he would nail it. Like, I think he would actually be perfect. And since it seems like they're going to be rebooting Shazam without him, I think it'd be kind of a good way to give him a send off. Same with all the other actors. We that never really got a proper send off. It'd be a great way to give them that send off that they all deserve.
No, that'd be interesting. I never thought about Zachary Levi in that position. I feel like for me, Shazam is kind of like I've always seen him sort of as that goofy guy. So I don't know if I could take him seriously like that. But I get what you're saying for sure. But yeah, there are definitely a couple of great DC Elseworld stories out there that could definitely be told. So we'll see if they ever get around to it. Again, James Gunn has said he's open to doing those, but they got to be some incredible scripts in order for them to actually see the light of day. So we'll see definitely how that holds up. But guys, that will do it for our live viewer questions and certainly wrap up this show for the week. So thank you guys so much for certainly joining us here today. Though we had some great topics, great questions from you guys, as we always appreciate diving into your guys' thoughts and questions also each and every week. Stuart, if people want to find you on social media, where can they find you, sir?
You guys can find me on Instagram at TurboStew01.
And guys, if you want to follow us, continue to do so at APlus Opinions all over social media down here. We're also over on TikTok at Hero Report. We've got ourselves a Discord forum community with a link in the description box below if you want to join our forum over there as well. We also have audio podcasts for wherever you listen to your audios at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. We're definitely everywhere, guys. Follow us on our Facebook page. That's where we keep everything updated throughout the week for you guys. And then we take those topics and then we discuss them here on APlus Hero Report live every Sunday for you guys. But that will do it for our show. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, y'all. And until next time, do us a big favor as always. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.